himself a crossover.
Oh, killer crossover.
Just a crossover.
It just crossed him over nastily.
Another victim to the crossovers. Cross him up and sit him down.
All right, time for the crossover, powered by Everlow Concrete Repair in Omaha at everlowconcrete.com. Look at you in the powder blue.
Yeah, that's right.
You look good. You look hot.
Thank you.
Did you?
We should have coordinated. I should have worn my powder blue.
Yeah.
How was Bobby Witt Jr.'s wedding?
The pictures looked amazing.
High
Did he
school
have a bolo
sweethearts.
tie
I
on?
didn't get invited.
Pasco.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Was Pasquantino the best man?
Pasquantino always ends up with his shirt all the way unbuttoned at the end of the night.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
So I've been told.
One of those guys. Which you got to have that guy in the friend group, right? Poll question: do you always have to have one guy with their shirt undone at the end of the night?
What is more annoying?
He's gonna need some context.
No, it's not.
What is more annoying? The guy with the shirt undone at the end of the night, or the guy who puts the tie on the top of the head?
Oh, it's probably the same guy.
Yeah,
That's
like looking like he's wearing a buff from Survivor.
Well,
you
because
know?
it gets, you can start dancing and it gets sweaty.
Looking like Jeff Probst about to come out of nowhere and be like, Tamatoa wins immunity.
Exactly.
Cochran, you're going to tribal council where you will become 1 in 8 people to win $1 million. The rest of you, you're off to tribal, where we will get down to 7 people remaining in Survivor
Nice.
Haiti.
You're a Survivor guy.
I love Survivor.
There's some Survivor people in
Survivor
the
47.
Survivor
Is that right?
people in
It
the
is a
office.
lot of Survivor. There's a lot of Survivors. I used to, freshman year, we used to get drunk in the dorms and watch Survivor.
That sounds like an awesome dorm activity.
Like we'd chill out. It would just be like a Wednesday night.
I
and
used to
like
get a
some-
12-pack of Mountain Dew and play Call of Duty.
Yeah, we used
Or
to go and
NBA
get
2K.
used to go and get Keystone and some Natty Lights, and like everyone had their own little pack, and then we'd watch like a whole season
I
of
used to-
Survivor.
I used to try to meet people from the opposite sex.
Well,
COVID,
different
COVID,
strokes for different folks.
COVID, we couldn't. COVID. There wasn't a whole
you
lot
still
of.
can.
There wasn't a whole lot of.
Good during COVID.
We watched it with some women.
Uh,
One of them became like two of the people now are dating, and they've been dating for like 3 years, and they'll probably get married.
in college, there was this. I'm curious about what the kids are doing
Nowadays,
but there was an app called Yik Yak. You ever heard of
yes,
Yik Yak?
yes.
People were yik yakking, and
It's a real app.
Peter,
It
you ever
was.
heard of Yik
There
Yak?
was
I remember the yak. It
Yeah.
took off there for a little bit.
So like,
What time frame are we
you could,
talking
like-
here?
It was
Early-
my sophomore year, 2021 to
Yeah, it's been about
2023.
so this is when I was in like early in the previous
So
decade.
maybe our time was a
Is
resurgence.
this like
Yeah.
is this like AOL Messenger?
So basically, you would just put a message on there, and it was like anonymous Facebook.
Yes.
It was like I'm looking for I'm looking for a
It was
roommate.
like
I'm
it
looking
was
for
it was
some-
like
I'm
it's a
looking
little
for
bit like Reddit,
yeah,
but it was
Yeah.
more of like a closer community than Reddit. Like it was kind of a regional
yeah.
type Reddit deal, and you
Yeah.
could click on threads and you can read
Okay.
threads. But like with Reddit, you still have usernames and whatnot,
Yeah.
and like this one was totally anonymous. But
I
there
just
was
remembered
there
that.
was a bomb threat on a Nebraska
That's-
UNL Yik Yak. Like
Oh,
someone
really
put a bomb threat. I think at the time it might have been Ronnie Green's office or something like that.
that put the
someone
bomb threat on it
on
Or-
Yik Yak, and
Oh, it was
so
gonna
they had
bomb
to
Ronnie
like.
Green's
I
office.
don't know if it was Ronnie Green, but it was one of the top people, either the president or the chancellor. There was a bomb threat that was a joke, and then they found the guy.
as they would.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So then Yik Yak I think kind of fell off after that.
Back in the day.
I miss the Ronnie Green halftime interviews with Greg Sharp.
Me too. I tend to hear the president halftime interviews every week. Although Dr. Gold is pretty funny in his own way. Dr. Gold, I was listening on, I guess it was the Wisconsin game.
Yeah.
And they were, and Coatney asked him about Thanksgiving.
Oh heck yeah, dude!
And he was like, what's going on Thanksgiving? And he was like,
Matt Coatney would be yeah.
well,
that'd be-
because Dr. Gold used to be like a pediatric surgeon or something like that.
oh okay.
And he was like, I and he said it in a very like smart way,
Well spoken, mannered,
He's
almost
well-spoken,
as if
yeah.
he's the president
But
of the
he's got a
college.
very
Yeah.
dry, slow voice.
Totally. And so he goes, well, I don't get to, do surgery anymore. So Thanksgiving is my day when I get to carve up the turkey, and that's my surgery now. And I was like, this is awesome.
He's making a turducken.
This is incredible.
Did Coatney have a follow-up?
It was just like, wow. He was just like, wow, that's great.
And so Dr. Gold, he's very deadpan.
Yes,
So
100%.
I don't think he is.
I would be
intentionally-
laughing.
That's probably he was like serious.
Yeah,
Oh,
But
yeah.
it was a funny joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rodney Bennett is the new chancellor, and he was our commencement speaker for graduation. And I don't remember one word.
I never have remembered a commencement.
that he
I don't
spoke.
think many people remember anything that Randy.
Unless it
Bennett
was like,
says.
unless like Jason Bateman showed up and started talking
I
or
was-
something like that.
I was walking onto the field, and by the way, of course, we were in black robes, and it was the hottest day in Lincoln you could possibly imagine.
Classic.
And college journalism is the last group of people to go up, so we're sitting out there for 3 hours. I actually did a radio kit on Husker Hour during my graduation because I got so
That's
bored.
awesome.
I walk onto the field, and my friend, she goes, "Are you hungover right now?" I go, "No.
I just did a radio interview.
I go. I think I'm drunk."
Nice.
Yeah, that's how bad. Then we went to Buzzard Billy's afterwards,
Nice.
and I just crushed Posca. You want to play Guys, Name, and Dudes?
Sure. I'd love to. I thought we were probably going to have a discussion about the tree today. Do you guys miss the tree?
So when did the tree exit the studio?
At about 1:52. Actually, no, it was after the crossover. It made it through the crossover.
Took the tree?
I want to say that I had no opinion on the tree. No opinion.
Was it? I just want to know.
No opinion on the
I
tree.
just want to know. Was it someone who's on the air who wanted the tree gone, or was it someone out?
Yeah. John was very outspoken about his dislike of the tree.
Why?
It was almost
what-
instantaneous.
What was?
And I called it. I said, you know what's going to happen, Peter? These guys are going to come in here. They're going to be like, we need this thing out of here.
Well, so
and they did.
So I
They
did
removed
ask Sharp. I go, look, I got up. I go, I'll go and get it. I go, I'll go and get the tree.
Don't put the tree back.
And
Don't put the tree, because then I have to be the mediator.
and then I wanted to do it.
Well, John's not here today, so
I wanted to do it, but Sharpie he called a cease and desist. So
I don't know what Jimmy would think about the tree.
I decided. Look,
Jimmy's filling in this afternoon.
I mean, is he Jewish?
No, I don't. Well, I don't.
Alan
know.
is Alan is
I don't think so.
yeah.
Okay. He might like the tree because it says Merry Christmas on it.
Yeah,
It's
I
festive. It's fun.
Yeah.
It was great. There was a lot of people in the YouTube comments who wanted the tree back.
Okay.
There was a whole message of people being like, "We're not going to
Why
stop."
don't you
commenting.
go and get a real tree tomorrow?
Why do I got to be the one to buy everything around here?
Do you even like the tree, or
I
were-
love the tree.
Oh, you were just instructed by Gary to get the tree.
Listen. General Sharp,
Eric
Lieutenant
boy.
McMaster. Okay, that's how
So
this
this is
works.
my little bulldog.
Yeah.
So
He's the
first thing you say, I'll do. Hey, you want me to? If you want me to be that guy, I'll be that guy.
Nice.
Who do you want me to go after?
Nice.
But
I just
that
said
was
yes, I
what,
said-
I wasn't even hired yet. And
You are fiercely loyal,
yeah.
except for
He-
in slow pitch softball.
I said the studio needs
Loyal to you.
decorating, and we were talking about the tree in the lobby, and Matt goes, "I'll go get it," and I was like, "Oh, he won't." It's just because he'll go out there and it's like pretty big.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, I hear the bells ringing as the door opens up, and Matt's got the tree, and I'm like, "All right."
Nice.
Look, they not a joke.
Good job.
A
by you.
nickname.
Don't
Of,
forget your cup today.
a
by the
nickname
way.
in the College of Journalism
yeah.
mine was the Bulldog of broadcasting.
the bulldog.
People call me the Bulldog. That's not a joke.
That's a great compliment to like a pitcher. You
Yeah.
know? You got to
Yeah.
be a bulldog.
I'm
out
an
there.
inning eater. I'm a radio inning eater.
You gotta
Just
be a
bring me in.
You're
I'll-
the Oral Hershiser of
I'm the
1620.
I'm the Bartolo Colon of 1620 of the zone.
like,
He's not very good, but you know what? We're gonna throw him on there, and he can get 4 hours of radio done.
So what's your what situation you coming in a relief spot? Like, are you the long guy who you're down 8-2 in the third? And you're like, we need to eat some innings.
Gary's at the twilight of his career, and he just needs someone to bring a little
like
bit of
Billy
spice.
Chappell.
Yeah, he's just kind of
He had that one game.
we're in a transition period between the glory days and but they don't want to go to a full rebuild yet. So now I've been brought in to eat hours here on the Gary and Matt show. We're not.
No, give
we still
yourself some
need.
credit.
We still need to sell some tickets, and we still need to make some revenue. But we're not in a full rebuild yet. But we're not winning any championships anytime
but
soon.
there could be value. You find value, hidden value. Maybe your
Yeah,
team's-
maybe I'm Garrett Crochet, and then I'll get traded.
maybe he's Garrett Crochet.
All right, I'm going to spin the wheel.
All right, what's this? What are we doing?
So this is just Gary and I just love to just start naming teams. or start naming players from teams.
Okay.
Okay. So
I like dudes.
I just spun the wheel. I put all the divisions first.
All right.
So we're gonna do the NFC North.
All right.
By the way, I have now I have
Tyreek
a code
Stevenson.
for opening day of the Royals.
Oh, really?
My email is just codes today.
Yeah. Code boy.
Packers, Vikings.
Oh, so we have to name old.
And the more random, the better. The more random you can get.
Either a Viking or a Packer.
It will be the Lions.
Name old Lions.
George Plimpton.
Whoa. Dan Orlovsky.
Theo Riddick.
Calvin Johnson.
I thought Peter.
Yeah.
Oh, so we're just
Name a lion.
Name a lion,
Yeah.
Pete.
Dang, I was
Mufasa.
gonna take. Name anyone. Simba.
That's a good one. That might be the top of the list.
That's my lion.
Billy Sims.
Long live the king. Man, Nate Burleson.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I got you.
Going
Going to the early 2000s. That's my sweet spot.
I will do Dan Campbell.
Dan Campbell was a lion.
Dan Campbell was a lion.
I'll just go Sanders. Most popular.
Eric
It's lame. It's
Berry.
lame, but
Eric Hipple.
Dominic Raiola.
Alex Anzalone.
Nice. Good one.
oh god, my Lions knowledge.
Yeah. You might be out.
I might be
Peter.
on. I might.
Go Nebraska.
There you go.
Former Husker.
Oh, Sue.
Big Sue. Big
I'll
Mr.
stick
Sue.
Corey Schlesinger.
Corey Schlesinger. Let's see. Where could we go? Is there any more former Huskers?
Oh yeah, you're missing a big one.
Probably.
Did
It's gotta be. Sue.
who was the guy who
Now here's a guy.
who was the guy who
Here's a
like
guy.
barely had a career here, but then went to the Lions and like was kind of there for a few defensive back. Nebraska, like they got him kind of late. He was probably a JUCO guy. Who's the guy that I'm thinking of? Now here's a guy.
Now here's a guy. It looks a little Mahomey, Mike.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking
Prince
about.
never played for Detroit, did he?
No,
He was
no.
Chicago.
He was a Bear.
And he was a
Bear.
giant
Yeah.
before
And a
anything.
giant.
And he was a Raider at the end.
Gary knows exactly who I'm talking about, but I can't remember.
Gary
his
is
name.
dying over there. I've
Well, I
never
feel
seen
like
him
I
make
can
that
tell
face.
Here's a guy.
Maybe by the time you get to me, I'll
He
have
was,
that guy.
he was the he.
Just name one. You're missing a big one.
No, I know I'm missing a lot, but now I'm dead set on this guy. Now I'm dead set on the defensive. Now I can't say anything else until I get there because it will throw me off. Because I feel like I'm close.
Let me see if I can. I'll eliminate myself and I'll filter out and see if I can find some names here. Who you might be thinking of.
Watching Happer have a heart attack on air is thrilling radio.
Somebody is going. No, it wasn't Alfonso Dennard comments. It was because well, what did he do in the? He was a Bengal, right? Alfonso Dennard for a minute, or no? I'm thinking of the other Dennard. There was another Dennard. Who was it? Well, I mean, you got Van den Bosch, I guess. That's what Jimmy says on
Yes.
YouTube.
Amir Abdullah.
Yeah, Amir. Amir scored a touchdown last night. Still scoring
God, is
touchdown.
he the only thing good for the Raiders?
Probably.
Bigelow pointed out
Who's the
that he has more receiving touchdowns this year than Travis Kelce.
guy? Whoops.
That's insane. I had no idea.
I hope the Raiders extend.
Bigelow's a
Antonio
Chiefs
Pierce.
fan. He's a hater of his own kind.
We're just saving 87 for the postseason.
Is that what you're doing?
He's also a little bit older. Touchdowns are not everything. You know what? If touchdowns were everything, Dowdell be the number one running back. 951-1620.
Girlfriends are everything.
All right, I'm gonna
Are
find
they?
this guy.
They're a pretty big deal, apparently.
2.
Travis Kelce.
Well, I mean, when you have her as your girlfriend.
She going to be at the game for the Cincy game? He's going to be there. You think she'll be there for the Arrowhead Cincy Nebraska game? He will be there. I mean, they're playing at his
Probably.
stadium at his college.
Getting ready for a wedding.
You a Kylie
His
Kelsey?
own.
She might be
Some of
pregnant.
Maybe he could invite Vinny Pasquantino.
Jason Kelsey will be at
Life
the
of the
Arrowhead
pod.
game.
I'm already sick of that storyline. I'm
What?
just going to tell you. With Mahomes playing quarterback for Nebraska on that day, and then the Kelseys.
Yeah,
in the game.
yeah.
I'm sick of that storyline.
And it's already
I'm
it's
done
only
with
8
that
months
storyline.
away.
That storyline's old. New storyline about the Nebraska-Cincinnati game that does not include outrage over a code not working.
I have seen some code tweets. People are
Happer
upset
still
about the
trying to
code.
find this incredibly
I'm trying to
obscure
find out how to
Husker
backtrack my way.
that has completely upended
It
guys
has.
naming dudes.
It has. I'm sorry. I apologize, but I don't.
I didn't even get to Golden Tate yet.
He was a defensive
Oh.
back. He didn't really play that much at Nebraska, but then he went on to have he kind of hung around in the NFL for a little while. So
And what position do you think it was?
he's a defensive back. Like he's a corner. Did you got it? Did you get it?
Daniel Bullocks.
No, it wasn't Daniel Bullocks. He was
But he
good
did
at
play for the
Nebraska.
Lions,
He's
so that's
none of
my
these
guy.
guys.
There you go. Attaboy. Well, Happer's just ruined it.
I
'cause
have ruined this.
It's ridiculous.
I apologize.
Just everything you touch turns into
I've already apologized.
The goal.
But now I have to get there. So I'm looking at old Nebraska rosters now. Probably like 2007,
Connor Mush.
2008, 2009, somewhere in that
Jesus.
range. Well, you guys can keep naming guys while I
Kendall
while-
Vildor.
Wow, good one.
Who?
Kendall Vildor.
Scott Mitchell.
That's a good one. We didn't say Matthew Stafford, so I'll just say Matthew Stafford.
Was it Ricky Tenars? No.
Ricky Thenars.
Yeah.
He's a popular
Wasn't
guy
there,
with the
Larry
Lincoln Police Department.
Asante? Larry Asante kind of hung around for a little while.
Does Matt Millen count? He
Yeah.
was the GM forever.
Matt Millen.
I'll see your Matt Millen. I'll give you Chris Spielman.
That's a good one.
Nice. What a guy.
I talked to
Love
Matt
Chris
Millen for like 40 minutes before the Nebraska Buffalo game in 2022.
He's a good guy.
He's a great guy.
Nice fellow.
Incredible human.
Nice guy.
And then I found out he was the general manager of the 0-16 Lions. And I was like,
Yeah, I'm sure he doesn't hear that very much.
oh no, they definitely don't.
Mm.
Definitely don't pile on in terms of
Not
that.
DeJon Gomes, but like same kind of era.
This is a call. I'm getting a call from Raymond, Nebraska right now. This is the Omaha World
Not-
Herald
not
calling me
Deontay Evans.
for like the 8th time in the last 2 months because I bought 1 month of subscription. And now they won't get off my back about renewing it.
You got to subscribe.
You got to
I
resubscribe.
might renew, but I don't want them to I don't want to give them the satisfaction of renewing my Omaha World Herald subscription over the phone.
Do you actually get the paper?
I like to get it on. I used to get an email.
You get the digital paper.
Yeah, the digital paper.
Yeah, we could. We can get you there.
I'm trying to help you here.
I know. I'm so
Stanley
angry.
played
I'm-
1 year.
I'm so
stumped.
angry.
John
It wasn't.
Baptiste.
it
He
wasn't-
played 1 year, but that's
Did the comments know?
Gomes did play for the Lions, I think, at the end of his career. 13?
Maybe.
Sound right?
That sounds
So he
right.
did play 1 year in
It
Detroit.
wasn't Damian Stafford, but like same era.
Played with the Lions?
I swear to God, he played for the Lions. I swear to God, he played for the Lions. Not Deontay Evans.
Jimmy Williams.
Oh, who's that?
Okay, all right, hang on.
Tight end. A couple years ago, big dude.
Matt Arian.
He was a tight end. He was a big guy. He went to the Texans afterwards.
Sam Laporta.
I'll just get DeAndre Swift.
Big guy.
You talk about Eric Ebron?
No, okay, no. His
Oh,
back,
Eric
his
Ebron.
Darren something. Darren, it was the other
Waller?
guy. No,
Oh.
no.
Yeah, Detroit.
Darren. Mo Cisse. Mo Cisse.
Oh, wow.
Mohamed Cisse. Thank you to the 2012 Nebraska football roster.
Jesus.
Mo Cisse definitely played for the Lions for a short period of time, and that is the guy that I was
Darren
trying
Fells.
to think of.
Darren Fells. Darren Fells.
Eric Kramer.
Nobody came up with it in the comments, and I had to find it myself.
Mo Cisse.
Mo Cisse. Mo Cisse.
Graham Glasgow. He's an offensive lineman.
Adrian Martinez.
That's right.
Wow.
People forget.
People forget.
Some other.
Who's the Tennessee quarterback? Tore his ACL, nearly won the Heisman, beat Alabama, 2022, very recently. Tennessee quarterback
Mm-hmm.
beat Alabama.
Keep talking through it. You're getting there.
I know.
What did he say? Sorry, I'm just looking.
Are you
at-
now
Yeah.
exploring the career of Mo Cisse?
I'm just diving deep.
He's diving.
I'm
Heard
diving.
of him.
He's too deep. He's
That's when
diving.
Nebraska recruited junior college players.
Troy Walters was a Detroit Lion.
I'm gonna. It was.
What was his description? What
Tennessee quarterback 2 years ago nearly won the Heisman, tore his ACL, beat Alabama.
Hendon Hooker?
Yes.
You
name
know
old
Joe
Tennessee-
Milton.
Joe Milton.
Joe is
Josh
dude.
Dobbs.
I'll tell you right now, Anthony Richardson is Joe
Hey,
Milton if Joe
hey.
Milton didn't get
Now
exposed.
this morphs into just random
Tennessee guys.
quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Tennessee guys.
Tennessee, University of Tennessee quarterbacks go.
Nico Alavala,
Peyton Manning.
T. Martin.
Nice. Good one.
Payton.
I'm out.
Peyton.
I got one more.
Does
I got-
Use my one
does
shot.
Cooper-
Todd Helton.
Does
Todd
Cooper,
Helton, boom.
does Cooper Manning count?
No.
He played wide receiver.
You're out. Now it's just Connor and myself. Heath,
I-
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
Todd
yeah.
Helton.
You eliminate me when I don't get one right, but we get to have Happer here, stumbling Happer,
'cause he
stumbling
was
Happer.
talking
That's,
away
That's
through
what
it.
they call me.
that's what they
Stumbling
call him,
Happer.
stumbling
Heath-
Happer.
Heath Schuler.
Whoa, good one. I'm trying to think of some like very average to below average Tennessee teams from like the last 10 to 15 years, of which they've had many. I think we covered basically the last 10 years with Dobbs and the other two guys that we mentioned, Hendon Hooker and Joe Milton, and Nico.
Nico Alavala.
Nico, I am Alava.
Mele Kaliki Maka is a man.
I think I'm.
You win.
Oh,
You win.
because if you would have gotten one, I
Waving
was
the white
done.
flag.
I was done. I was out on Tennessee quarterbacks, unless Johnny Majors played quarterback.
What is
for-
Tyler
what-
Bray.
What is the one Ooh, Ty Bray, former Bear, Tyler Bray.
former,
I'm
Chief.
cheating now for sure.
God, how did he ever end up in the NFL?
What is the one franchise that you can name the most quarterbacks from NFL? You can name the most
Like greatest
quarterbacks.
percentage of like the most amount of people.
The most amount of singular
Well, I
quarterbacks
mean,
you can name.
Probably like got to go to the Jags or something.
So
like
I
that.
think I can name more Jets quarterbacks.
Jets.
Like I could
Hey,
rattle
the
off. I could
Peterman played at Tennessee.
I-
Peterman, not
Tennessee.
you, Peterman. The other the
Nate Peterman.
The
The
bad
good
Peter
old
man.
the
Rocket
bad Peterman.
The sucky Peter man.
Really bad Peterman.
Probably the Browns because
yeah.
I have stared at the picture of the guy that wears the
Oh,
jersey.
yeah.
Oh,
Million
that
names.
It's very funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
It's a good
Spurgeon
point.
win.
Good point.
Josh McCown,
Tim Couch,
Jeff Garcia,
Derek Anderson got him to the playoffs one year.
He sure did.
Cody Kessler,
Jacoby Brissett.
Jacoby. Brett Hundley. There's also Deshaun Kaiser in there too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they thought a lot of
They've
Deshaun
cycled
Kaiser.
they've cycled through them.
Casey Clausen, Tennessee quarterback.
Colt McCoy,
Colt McCoy.
Johnny
He
Manziel.
was a Browns guy. This really is guys
Baker.
naming dudes.
what was another one? Real random one.
Not Bernie Kosar. Not Brian Sipe. Sorry, that's probably dated
Who's
both you guys
the-
in this room.
Baker Mayfield.
Was Hoyer played for the Browns?
Yeah, attaboy.
There we go. I found one.
Brian Hoyer.
I think of one
I think
every now and
like
then.
like there are some guys you could just name their name and you're gonna pick like 8 teams.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
Chase Daniel.
Yeah,
Totally.
that was the next
He's
one.
been around.
Well, Fitzpatrick will always and forever be that guy.
Just the backup quarterbacks. If you could make a living somehow, look
Oh.
at Tim Boyle. You know, Tim Boyle. All he did was threw interceptions in college, and now he has been in the NFL for like 50 years.
When I think of backup quarterbacks, I think of AJ McCarron.
Okay, great question. When you
He
think of
XFL
backup,
now? Is he a quarterback at St. Louis?
He might be.
I thought he
He
was the
he might
Bell.
be a coach now. I'm
when you
pretty
think
sure,
of
though.
quintessential backup quarterback in the NFL,
Yeah, who do you think of?
it's a guy, who.
Now here's a guy,
It was the guy from the Packers who had that one really good game and then got traded for a lot of money.
Matt Castle.
No, no, not Matt Castle.
Matt Flynn.
Matt Flynn.
Matt Flynn.
That's the guy I'm thinking of.
I
I'm
knew it
thinking
was Matt.
Flynn.
I
I'm
knew it
like,
was a Matt.
Flynn, that's
I knew
a
it was a
backup
Matt.
quarterback.
Well, I think
now they're
Trent.
making commercials. Case Keenum.
Oh, do you know how great those are?
Oh.
Those are
Those
so good.
commercials.
Jacoby Brissett comes in to do the tax returns.
Now there's a guy that has hung around the NFL for a while,
And there's a lot of those guys.
and he's starting. Like
Oh,
he'll be a
Tyrod
random
Taylor,
starter.
great backup quarterback. Great backup.
Trent Dilfer.
Case Keenum almost went to the Super Bowl.
He did.
Keenum
So
almost
that's
go.
so the common perception is that it was Kirk Cousins on the Minneapolis Miracle.
Would you?
No.
It is
was
not.
Case Keenum.
It is
Would
Case.
you rather be a quarterback
Nick
who?
Foles.
Would you rather be a quarterback?
Super Bowl winner.
Super Bowl winner.
Would you
Nick
rather
Foles.
be a backup quarterback in the league for like 12 to like 15 years,
Yes.
but you're always a backup and
Yes.
you're not making that much money,
You're
or
making a bunch of money.
Well,
Au contraire, mon frère.
Google Chase Daniel
Or-
earnings.
or would you rather be the quarterback that has like a good year and a half and then gets a massive contract and then flames out? Would you rather be Brock Osweiler or Chase Daniels?
I don't know. You're playing. You're
Google,
in the
Google
league.
Chase Daniel.
It's like
NFL earnings.
$74 million, right?
Yeah, but I guess Brock Lobster probably got more than that on one deal, didn't he?
I think him and Bradford like cash. Oh my God,
Bradford was good for a while.
Bradford cashed out with Arizona. Like got massive Arizona Cardinal money.
Jimmy Allen chimed in and texted me. Brandon Whedon. Good shout.
That's a good one. Brandon Whedon
Played
is a
college
good
ball
one.
until he was almost 30.
Yeah.
I saw some guy said that Alan Bowman at Oklahoma State was going to get another year, and then Alan Bowman commented and he said, "No, thank you."
Isn't it?
Couldn't do our eighth year of college.
He goes, "I think 7 is enough."
Well, isn't Cam Rising still deciding what he's going to do?
So I was
I
about
don't
to
think
say,
he knows.
Isn't it funny? Like Brandon Whedon, like had a really good excuse as to why he was old and was just ironic. But now that there are actually guys who didn't go to the military, who are like playing until they're 20s, is
Was he a
Petrus?
military guy?
He might have been.
I don't
know if he was.
Cam Rising and Trevor Lawrence were in the same high school class.
I thought Whedon was a baseball guy.
I don't. But like that's. But I was just saying that's
Yeah.
a reason as to why you would come.
Russell Wilson, baseball guy.
Chris Wanke.
Baseball guy.
People forget that he won a little award.
Monty Harrison played many years of professional baseball.
How did he do at Arkansas this
That's a
year?
great question. Let's check.
Whenever I'd watch Arkansas, I'd never heard his name.
Brandon Whedon spent several years playing professional baseball in the minor leagues after being drafted by the New York Yankees.
There you go.
And then he went to OSU after.
Monty Harrison. Okay, here's his baseball stats. We don't need those.
When I hear Monty, I think of Monty Ball immediately.
Monty. This is slow, but he had 2 catches for 29 yards this year, both against the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff.
So we didn't see any action during SEC games.
We didn't see any action in any other game, apparently.
We didn't. Let's just end that sentence with, we didn't see any
We
action.
didn't see any action. Monty. Now, was he a freshman this year?
Wow. Brandon Whedon was 23-3 at Okie State.
That guy was killing it.
Holy Lord.
Yeah, they were.
Good for Brandon.
I forget which year, but until a game in Ames, Iowa, they were in contention. For
2011.
For the
11? Okay.
For the longest time, I couldn't tell the difference between Matt Hasselbeck and Trent Dilfer. I thought they were the same person.
Yeah.
And then Matt actually had another Hasselbeck brother, and that made it even more confusing because I couldn't tell them 3 apart.
It's always another Hasselbeck.
Always another Hasselbeck.
UAB head coach Trent.
That's right.
They are.
It's going swell. It's going.
Didn't
great.
someone aren't there more transfers or commits to the Army than there is UAB right now? Like, there are more people who rather enlist and go to war than play for Trent Dilfer.
Which former media personality that went into coaching is having a better career, Trent Dilfer or Doug Gottlieb?
Oh, there. Did you see Schefter put Gottlieb in a body bag?
Yeah, I have it. I have that lined
Yeah, but,
up for
okay,
later. It's
hold
going to
on.
be fun to talk
But
about.
Gottlieb, he's right. They don't have $50 million in NIL.
Well, Schefter cited his sources. They said that the league came together and got, $50 million in NIL.
As somebody who was
not just NIL, you have to
So-
build a stadium and a football, like in all the infrastructure and hire coaches, and then whatever you have left, you have.
Hey,
in NIL.
Doug, worry about your team, all right? Just worry about your team, Doug.
Hey, look, Schefter. I thought that was unfair.
Put him in a body
I love
bag.
the idea of putting Doug Gottlieb, in his place, but not.
Not unfairly. He's got to happen in a fair
yes,
way.
I can tell you, as someone that was just at Sacramento State 2 weeks ago,
They ain't got no $50 million.
they ain't got no money. They got no money.
Trying to hire Mike Vick.
I mean, when you go to the bathroom at in the, I'm not even gonna call it an arena. It's a gym, seats 1,000 people where they play basketball. You go into like they don't have doors on the stalls. Okay, it's like you're back in school again. And then they have not troughs, but you basically urinate into a wide open hole.
Nice.
Interesting.
Doesn't appear to be real
Interesting.
sanitized.
So they don't have $50 million.
So the story is because I was asking the guy, I go, hey, I hear you guys might be building a new football stadium. And he goes, sit down. So they have,
I got something for you.
the idea is, so there are some local Sac State alum
Yes.
that want to get them into the Pac-12
Yes.
that said they could raise $50 million.
Yeah.
Now they have this really cool football stadium, but it's in the California school system and they have no money.
They're not going to
It's an old school. The facilities are not great. They used to be good in football, but they just lost their football coach to go be an assistant coach at Stanford, where their former head coach went to be a couple years ago.
The day that Wrigley gets rid of the troughs is the day I stop being a fan.
Wow.
Whoa.
Strong.
Love. I
We-
mean, it's a
we-
part of
we-
our identity.
I mean-
I aim mine, or I aim yours, you aim mine. We're a team together.
Wow. Wow.
Wild.
Wow.
We're a
So
team.
Well,
We're a team. Builds character.
go
Builds
Cubs.
character. Go Cubs, go.
Well,
Hey, Chicago, what do you say?
gentlemen, have a great afternoon.
People that used KC Husk are doing well.
Apparently. Get your tickets. Casey
Get your
Husk.
tickets here.
Hey, there are so many people that are upset with Ticketmaster right now that are.
I told you this is the Taylor Swift of Nebraska. Taylor Swift concert of
You
Nebraska.
think they would have learned their lesson, right?
What they should have done is, just have a good stash of tickets. Let people stand in line. They used to do this back in the day, especially for bowl tickets. You'd have to go to the ticket office in Lincoln in the old South Stadium,
Tickets.
and there'd be line out the door
Mhm.
of people just buying season tickets with cash.
You know
Cash or card.
what they should do? They should go to one of those buildings that has a Spirit Halloween that's empty right now, and they should just rent that out and put all the tickets in a big old pile and just open up the doors and say, all right, guys, go ahead.
That'll go well. And that's
Yeah.
basically what they're doing with Ticketmaster.
Yes. Do you think they'll release like the opening day sales for this game, like between tickets that were sold in the state of Nebraska to tickets that were sold in the state of Ohio?
I'd like to know.
I would too.
I don't think they probably will, but I'd like to know.
The AD's just sitting there counting money behind his desk. He's like, I love Nebraska.
Have a great afternoon,
You
gentlemen.
Thank you.
boys as well. Thanks a
That's
lot.
The crossover powered by Ever Level Concrete in Omaha at everlevelconcrete.com. We'll start things off next.
It's the Connor Happer Show. Are we sure we want to do this?
Could you, make an announcement that we're ready?
It's the Connor Happer Show on 1620, The Zone.
All right, welcome in. Happy Tuesday. It is the Connor Happer Show. You're on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. Connor Happer and the Peter Man with you today. Peter Krenzer back again.
Hey, howdy.
Back. He'll be here tomorrow, not Thursday, but Friday. Peter doesn't work on Thursdays. It's in his contract.
Yeah, it's very clear. It's in the fine print.
That's right. So we'll honor that, and the Joey Man will be here Thursday. But here we are on this Tuesday here on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. Today, coming up on the show, we'll have a chat about the NFL with our dear friend Allan Bell coming up at 11:30. And Jacob Bigelow will join us to talk some hoops at 1 o'clock. That is the lineup. Powered by the Rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard. Want to hear from you all, 402-951-1620. You could call us or text us there on the 42 Degrees of Source hotline. Tweet at Happer Show, at Connor Happer on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed, where there's already a poll question up from the crossover. Does every friend group need a guy who ends the night with a fully unbuttoned shirt? You could vote yes or no.
Get in on it.
On that one, along with several other polls that I'm sure we will jump across today. And you could email us on the Equitable Bank inbox, Connor at 1620thezone.com. You could also email Josh. Maybe you could email Josh about, I don't know, I tweeted out a video yesterday, and Peter, I think we have the ability to play this. We don't need sound necessarily, but I do have a video. I've obtained exclusive video of Josh Odson deciding to test his athletic endeavors yesterday, and you're about to see it here on our stream if you're watching along with.
The Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
Narration there in the background. The Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone. Once again, exclusive video from a source in Canyon, Texas.
Do we know whose voice that was?
We do.
Oh, okay.
We do. He will. He doesn't have to. That would be. I have the public address announcer for Creighton basketball on retainer. And that's Jake Ryan.
Oh, that was Jake. Okay.
And,
sounded familiar.
Whenever I need a line, he'll just rip one off for me. So that's nice. It's great. We pay
Great
him,
content.
we pay him handsomely every single year. Also, like I said, you could watch us along on YouTube, 1620 The Zone TV, or, of course, conveniently located on our website or on an arm of our website, zonetv.live. Elsewhere today, we'll have NFL reaction, overreaction coming up in the bottom of the noon hour. We'll take a look at a couple storylines from the NFL from over the weekend last night. I also would like to dive into the fact that all the Monday night games and Thursday night games just feel like anecdotally stink. I actually put some now, I have long been against the Monday night doubleheaders, and last night was a great example of why. I understand how television works, and you put games in exclusive windows and more people are going to watch it just because they're trained to at this point. But I feel like we haven't been really treated to the best matchups this year or important matchups really at all. Some of that has to do with a couple teams not living up to expectations, like the 49ers, who have gotten a lot of Thursday and Mondays so far this year. But I actually put some research to this last night just to see, what we're actually dealing with in terms of the quality of games that we've gotten on Thursday and Monday nights. NFL coaches been outspoken on Thursday nights being bad, obviously, because it's a short week and you can't get everybody a bye every single time before the Thursday night game. So we'll dive into that during the show today. Never talked about the Penn State quarterback who entered the transfer portal yesterday before the playoff begins. So that can be a discussion point today. Yesterday, speaking of the transfer portal, Dante Dowdell into the transfer portal. We'll try and sift through why and what next, and all of that. And then I have, I guess, a theory or a take about Nebraska in the transfer portal and their pursuit of acquisition of players at this point, where I feel like, I don't know, like altogether, like I said, we'll talk about this at the top of the 11 o'clock hour. I find myself a little concerned at the moment. I need to find my concern sign and hold it up. I just am a little uneasy about where Nebraska is situated. Thank you, Peter. If you're watching along with us on ZoneTV.live, I have some concern. I have some concern about Nebraska in the portal at the moment. I'll explain that as we go on throughout the show today. Was able to sift through some of the reaction to Nebraska opening up their season on a Thursday in Kansas City next year, and so we could get into some of the chatter on that. Of course, we talked about it a whole bunch yesterday. And then a couple other things from around the sports world. We checked in with Josh in Canyon, Texas. The JUCO National Championship game, by the way, tomorrow. Iowa Western against Hutch. We'll ask who will fix college football, and there is a bowl game tonight. The Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl is tonight. Who do you like, Peter? Memphis, West Virginia.
I think I'm going to go Tigers.
It's going to go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Memphis is a 5-point favorite at the moment.
I wouldn't be surprised if West Virginia won, but there's a lot of turnover going on.
Yes, the bowl games are very, very good luck to everybody in a bowl pool or confidence point pool. Like, you really got to do your research on all this stuff this year. So welcome to the show. We would love to hear from you. Star Wars Fiend has a couple comments. What did I just witness on Josh kicking a field goal? And was he trying to run? Well, let's go ahead and just check this out one more time. Let's go ahead and get a full tape breakdown here.
The Connor Happer Show.
My response was, I thought everything looked good until he started moving. It wasn't really going to go his way. Josh also saw this video as it was leaked out last night, and commented to me and said, "Boy, really don't like watching myself run. It's a real eye opener. It's a real eye." And I said, I thought you had it all stepped off well, and you were set up, and I thought you were putting yourself in a position for success, but at the end of the day, weren't able to get it done. So that's what we watched.
That is very reminiscent of what my kick at the College Football Hall of Fame experience in Atlanta looked like. So to our dear friend Josh, you're not alone. You're not alone.
Not alone.
That's almost exactly what it looked like when I tried.
Trusty Tyler writes in on YouTube, McAfee would have easily doubled his prize pool up for the second try on that one. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Josh would have continued to be confident, though, in his second attempt. He's like, "Oh, yeah, I hate kickers, and I got this. Don't worry." I just think if you would have given him like 6 more attempts, he would have, maybe gotten it up in the air and to the crossbar at some point. All right. So here we are on a Tuesday. We'll be back. I want to dive into some of these numbers that I've laid out on Monday Night Football doubleheaders and Thursday Night Football. So we'll talk about that. Plenty of NFL stuff coming today, and then we'll talk about the portal coming up at the top of the hour. Welcome to it, a Tuesday show on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone. right, check in quick with the chit chat shows here on First Take, which today features Stephen A. Smith, Kendrick Perkins, and Shannon Sharp. They just had a quote plastered on the screen, and they were talking about it for a few minutes from Jara Jones yesterday. Quote, "I've eaten a lot of raccoon," Jones said. Yes, the answer is yes. I've eaten it hunting, and I've actually had it served by my mom at the table away from hunting. It's not uncommon at all. One of my favorites is squirrel. It's wonderful, and my mother could do a great job of preparing it. We all had our favorite pieces. My mom and I would even ask for the brain of the squirrel. Delicious. Seriously. That was Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones, who enjoys eating the brains of squirrels. Just so we're clear. That topic came up for some reason on his weekly appearance on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas. Why? I do not know. I'm not sure. Maybe they've decided on that weekly appearance because of other things that have happened that they just need to talk about anything else but football. Maybe
Jerry's diet.
Maybe that has been the decision that they've made. So good to know that they're busy. They're also talking about Joel Embiid being hurt again. Another shocking revelation. All right. So welcome back. So I was thinking about this last night. We had two more stinkers on Monday Night Football. And don't trust me, I want to get to a text that we got about Dante Dowdell. We'll do that at the top of the hour. But just bear with me for a couple minutes here. So I feel like we have to at some point stop putting meaningless games in prime time. And to be fair, like the NFL only has so much control of this. You're scheduling this out way later in the season. Now there are flex opportunities, obviously, but you're scheduling this out many weeks away. And I think, frankly, you're hoping you get lucky a little bit as well with some of the matchups that you get around this time of the year, right? Week 14, week 15, week 16, even. But I understand from a ratings perspective that if you put games in exclusive windows, then it creates an opportunity for many people to watch. And I understand why that makes sense from a television perspective. But I feel like Thursday Night Football and Monday Night Football have just been pretty rough, basically this entire year. We've seen 2 overtime games, so there's been a combined, if you combine TNF and MNF this year, that including the Monday night doubleheaders, we've seen 32 games in those exclusive windows, 2 of which have gone to overtime. That was the Week 5 Falcons-Bucks game in Thursday Night Football, and then the Week 9 Chiefs-Bucks game on Monday Night Football. Both of those games went to overtime. And I'm including those games which were each 6-point wins, one for the Chiefs and one for the Falcons. In these stats. So I was trying to I was thinking about it last night. I'm like, what do you think the differential, like the average point differential in these games are? And what I came to realize based on the research is that the games themselves aren't necessarily that bad in terms of the scores, but I think anecdotally, and I think NFL coaches would agree with this, and I think people who watch the NFL would agree with this, when you throw it off by a day, and especially Thursday Night Football, it affects the prep, and therefore it affects the cleanliness of the game, and it affects the explosiveness of the game as well. You give teams a full week and full health, and they're able to create a little bit more. Now Monday Night Football, obviously you have an extra day of rest, but I also feel like we've seen a lot of stinkers in Monday Night Football. So here's what the stats have said. I'm not counting the Week 1 Thursday Night Football opener, which is obviously very different. That was between the Ravens and the Chiefs, but that was not a Amazon, traditional Thursday night game. Average margin of victory and I'm not counting Thanksgiving either. Average margin of victory 9.92 points, basically 10 points. 5 of the 13 games so far that have happened this year have not been one score. Monday Night Football, there's been 19 games, including the 2 last night. And the differential on Monday night games has been an average of 11 per game. So we're not averaging the way I'm thinking about it is, well, a lot of NFL games are 1-score games. You look at spreads and stuff like that. Historically, the margin of victory is quite small in NFL games just in general. But on Thursday Night Football, we're not getting that quite as much. And on Monday Night Football, we're not quite getting it as much. I got to be honest with you. The research wasn't as bad as I thought that it was going to be. But once again, anecdotally, it just feels like we've got some really, really rough performances, punctuated on this past Thursday night by a touchdownless Rams 49ers game, which was a rough. But once again, you're looking at that before the season and you're like, whoa, this is going to be an important game in week 15. And it is. It's still an important game, but it's not. You didn't get out of the 49ers what you thought you were going to get out of the 49ers. So there's that piece of it. And that is always going to happen. I just think they're like in the mayonnaise is out of the toothpaste is out of the toothpaste holder. The genie is out of the bottle. Like all of these things.
The mayonnaise.
I don't even know what I was going to say with the mayonnaise, Peter, but
the mayonnaise jar has exploded.
The mayonnaise jar. The people took mayonnaise out of the mayonnaise jar. I don't know. It's like you're not going back is the point, right? You're not going to all of a sudden have this revelation and realization, NFL TV execs or whatever, NFL people that they'll just be like, oh, you know what? We need to do this for the love of the game. We need to put games, put good games in primetime windows, or we need to take away Thursday Night Football altogether. Like, there's no way that's happening. But I just feel like they can maybe meet halfway in terms of the quality that we're getting in some of these things. Just an observation from our primetime games this season, which have generally not been very good. And the research backs that up at least a little bit.
And he would agree.
All right. So we'll come back. Dante Dowdell in the transfer portal, and I'll explain to you my concern as well as we go on. Coming back on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone. Connor Happer, Peter Krinzer with you today in the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. I got a comment here from MJ on YouTube. Please help remind me why we went away from transfers needing to sit out a year. Yeah. Just as I tried to make a horrible analogy about mayonnaise before and it coming out of jars and things like that, I don't agree with this, or I think it's understandable why it happened, I guess I should say, but all in everything that has happened to get to where we are in college football right now, and this is something that we'll discuss further in depth in the noon hour, is in the essence, in the ilk of player freedom and player movement, student athlete movement, right? So that they are able to, they're not binded to the school by there's nothing that is de-incentivizing them from leaving. And you have both of these things that have come together at the same time, which is transfer portal, free transfer, all the free transfers, and the NIL, and it's created obviously this horrible thing. So who will horrible thing. It can be good for the players, but it's been an adjustment for the sport, that's for sure. Will it stay this way? No, but in order for it to not be this way, something will have to step up and make some changes. So that's something that we could discuss a little bit further in depth in the noon hour of the show. But welcome back. So Dante Dowdell enters the portal yesterday for Nebraska. He was their leading rusher this past year. Him and Emmett Johnson combined for over 1,000 yards a year ago. Emmett Johnson declared his intent to enter the portal and then said that he was not going to after all. So he'll be back next year. So we're at the point now with the transfer portal. And I saw a lot of people reacting to this yesterday. It's like, whoa, this is a huge shocker. And I know people didn't really mean it this way, but when I see that and I'm like, my immediate reaction is, well, damn. I mean, that stinks, but how could you expect me to be surprised? The transfer portal is open. You have the opportunity to make money or whatever it might be. So we get a text here from Michael a few minutes ago. It says, Connor, and I don't know the reasoning, and I think that's what is difficult to understand. I think for a lot of people, like, you try to put yourself in the player's shoes, and you try to rationalize it in some way, shape, or form. And if you can't come up with anything that makes sense right off the bat, then you go to money. Michael says, Connor, I feel Dante's move to the portal is a cash grab move. In all honesty, I think he saw what Gabe got paid and said I should get paid. I don't know what Gabe Irvin got paid. I don't know. I don't even know where. Did he end up somewhere? I didn't even see that.
I'll look, but
I think he's talking about maybe Emmett Johnson.
Okay.
Those two were our Thunder Lightning combo. Definitely talk about Emmett Johnson. I don't think he's truly gone, but I'm probably wrong. However, this is what's wrong with NIL. These 18, 19-year-olds are acting like NFL free agents, or they're in a contract dispute and want to sit out until they get paid more. This is a bad precedent for the sport right now. There have been some NIL deals leaked, rather, whether they're true or not. And if you want to fix these, kids need to be capped at $1 amount. Yeah, 100%. And once again, I don't know what the reasoning is for Dante Dowdell, but you look at it, and it was the same thing with Emmett Johnson. You try to rationalize it. You say, what are the common reasons that people transfer? Playing time, right? Situation. I want to get a better situation. I want to find my best path to the NFL, or whatever the dream might be. I want to put myself in a better situation to be able to have success. And then if you look at each of those guys' situation, you say, wow, I kind of like the combo there. And I think it sort of worked. And I thought they ran better at the end of the year when Daniel Holgerson was in charge of the offense and all of that stuff. And you look at it and you say, well, it kind of feels like that was a good one. That was a good situation, not only for Nebraska, but for the players as well. But the players have the ability, and this is before even going into the transfer portal. There's all this tampering, and anyone can call anybody, and whether it's allowed or not, call anybody and say, hey, look, I mean, I think that you should probably do this. I think that, I wonder what you're getting paid. What are you getting paid? Could you tell me what you're getting paid? Or could you tell me what your situation is? And we can match that and we can make it better. And this has and another thing that I want to talk about is the disadvantage that I feel Nebraska is at right now, but that's a more general topic that we could do at some point in the show today as well. But as far as Dowdell is concerned, let's get back to him. So I wonder if there's, from a football perspective, it feels like there's a theme in how we talk about these guys, whether it's Emmett Johnson or Dante Dowdell. I feel like they're all sort of replaceable. Nebraska needs to have a guy that does not fit that description. Does Emmett Johnson's return affect this? Yes, probably. And I thought for a brief second yesterday, oh, well, maybe this means Nebraska's in on another portal running back. Maybe this means they're in on Kawan Lacey, who they recruited in the last recruiting cycle and didn't end up getting him. He went to Missouri. Well, he is reportedly headed to Ole Miss. And so now you're asking, okay, what actually happened here? Does Nebraska need to get a guy there? We could talk about that piece as well. But once again, I can't be surprised because of the ability to move for all these players. And I think they're thinking, well, I'm going to take advantage of my money-making windows, my money-making opportunities while I have the chance. But much is the same thing when we were talking about NFL games and primetime windows before, Peter. Like, when will this settle down? And maybe we're in a trend right now where there's too much, it's just too much up and down, and we're not going to have a chance to settle in on this because there's going to be changes before the next time it sort of settles in, and everybody is taking advantage of the edges they think they have right now. But I hope that after a certain period of time, players will see some of the data that's coming back and they'll say, gosh, I really like the money and I really like getting a pay raise. And I try to put myself in their shoes and I say, well, if I could get if I could get $50,000 more dollars or $100,000 more dollars to move to a job in a worse situation, would I do that? Kind of depends, right? Kind of depends on what your situation is. But I hope that there is enough information out there after a certain period of time where players and agents and all this stuff will look at it and say, man, if the goal is to play football and if the goal is to be successful at football, then the money right now is just whack money. I mean, it's crazy. It's all over the place, and nobody knows what the market is. And so it's so difficult. And players see these big numbers, I think, flash in front of their head. And once again, I don't know if this is the case with Dowdell, but it's an opportunity for me to get on a soapbox, I guess, about this. You see the money and you're like, whoa, this is what I could do. This is what I could get. Imagine if I publicly went into the transfer portal and I was able to sell myself a little bit. I would, take Dante Dowdell on your team, take Emmett Johnson on your team. Absolutely. Do both of those. And, but I wonder if their situations at Nebraska aren't their best football situations, knowing that they're familiar with they're familiar with the coaching staff and they're familiar with what's going to happen. Like, I think that all that stuff matters. But maybe it doesn't as much in a world where everyone is sort of a free agent. I mean, look what Nebraska is going to be next year. Nebraska is going to have a lot of new players on their roster. They're going to spend a lot, and they're going to have a lot of new coaches. And so they will spend a lot of time, I think, trying to just get acclimated and comfortable in all of that stuff. So maybe it's a mindset adjustment from all of us as well. But I've heard a lot of people say, man, I don't know about this anymore. Free transfers all the time. The roster is going to be completely different. Nebraska's roster is going to be completely different next year. A lot of that is because of graduation. A lot of that is because of the transfer portal as well. So we get to a couple texts before we move on to a bigger picture item involving the transfer portal. Jeff writes in, he says, as a player, you do yourself a disservice if you don't see what your value is on the open market. See, but aren't you doing yourself a disservice if you're not trying to find the best situation for yourself as well? And
that's a very fair argument.
And I don't know what Nebraska, like, I don't know if it for sure is. But walking into the unknown for money, let's just say it is flat out money, walking into the unknown in an unknown situation with unknown, maybe there'll be a connection to whatever place, whoever, we're talking in generalities now, not necessarily about Dante Dowdell. Whoever enters the transfer portal, they go into their next situation, and there's probably a connection that ended up landing them at the place where they're at. They've probably told you a lot of things, and that you're going to get more money. So maybe it's not all that uncomfortable. And kids these days are really adaptable to situations. And so I understand Jeff's point, but I also I do think there is some value to being at the place you were at if the situation works for you. Once again, we as fans try to look at it, and this is at least what I try to do. I try to put myself in their shoes. How much do I need the money? How much more money do I want? How much more money can I get? What is my monetary value? What is my opportunity to cash in on this opportunity that I have? But also, you still do have to think about the football a little bit as well. And if the decision making from the football standpoint doesn't make sense, then it's hard to rationalize. And so I think every transfer portal case is a little bit different. That's why you saw people have the adverse reaction they did to Emma Johnson. That's why you saw people have the adverse reaction that they've had to Dante Dowdell. I think the same thing with Nate Borkircher, right? That doesn't make any sense to me on paper. Doesn't make any sense to me. That guy had a pretty sweet role here, had built his way up, and was going to be a feature player or an important player in what Nebraska did next year at Nebraska. And Nebraska has obviously shown this ability and want to take care of its own players, to retain its own roster. But it feels like there's maybe a limit to what they will do. And I think for good reason, but it's put them in a really interesting spot. Chris in Montana writes in, he says, what confuses me is if Dante signed an NIL when he came from Oregon, how come he isn't legally binded at least to finish the season out? This is more confusing because he's on his second transfer, and shouldn't he have some type of legal contract to finish the season? No, there's no contracts. There's not there's no contract. It's all wacko under the table, agreements. Remember, NIL is supposed to be, you can sell your name, image, and likeness to take advantage of it on not necessarily the transfer portal open market. It's not pay for play. That's not what this was intended to do, but it has become pay for play. It was originally the intent of it was supposed to be a tool to allow players to sell themselves to businesses and take advantage of their popularity and their reach as student athletes, very, very popular student athletes, right? Okay, so you see somebody show up in a Nike commercial or an Adidas commercial. That's what it was supposed to be, but it obviously hasn't ended up that way. It's become this whole kind of pay for play thing, which we're still going to have this, even when it literally is pay for play and there's rev sharing next year. So this piece of it isn't going to go away. It's just we're going to be talking about bigger and bigger and bigger dollar figures. So a couple comments from you guys here. Let's see. Whopper writes in.
Big if true.
He says it'll settle down if, number one, legislation is passed that allows the NCAA more control. Number two, this starts to adversely impact the NFL via player development. Or number three, viewership drops significantly. I don't think it changes without one of those outside forces.
I wonder how fast-tracked, if at all, any possible legislation or changes will get, just because of how public I feel like the
once again, you're asking,
complaints have been from coaches and administrators.
Whatever leading entity we have, whatever it looks like going forward, is going to have to say something that would be, enact something that would be more restrictive on player movement than it is right now. And once again, it's just really hard to put that toothpaste back in the toothpaste tube. Nothing about mayonnaise.
No mayonnaise involved.
No mayonnaise involved whatsoever. It's just really, it's going to be really hard to do that. It's been difficult to navigate those waters in the NBA. And I don't know what has happened to NBA viewership numbers. I know that I'm certainly less interested in it now than I was 15 years ago, before LeBron's decision, and that kind of led to the player movement era. People call it the player empowerment era and stuff like that. And I feel like, this needs to be said every time. Like, nobody is against that idea. It seems like the more that I hear from this, and we've really adjusted in the general public, people are very okay with players getting compensated for what they do, on whether it's on the football field or with their name, image, and likeness. Like, people are very, very okay with this, but there needs to be some meet me halfway. There needs to be some sort of like, hey, we can't have you. We got to get into contracts, and we can't have you be a free agent every second of every day. It's in no other professional sports entity does that happen. So like, I wonder if, maybe another thing could come into play here. I wonder, you see around college football, there's now some like big time donors who come in and they're like, hey, I'll buy this piece of this program, and I'll help you out with X amount of $1 million in NIL money. How long can that go on? How long until that well runs dry? And how long until those people who invest in those programs, and a lot of them have been investing in the programs for a long time, say, this is a bad investment because we're throwing just stupid money at all of this stuff. And we're not seeing our ROI here. We're not maybe that's another added, thing that could force some change here at the top. So who fixes this? I don't know. There's a lack of all of it right now. And, I don't know what the next step is. Obviously, we're going to go into this rev sharing thing, and there will be another, wave of people trying to navigate those waters and figure out exactly what it is, and then take advantage of it. And then there will be another change. It's tough spot right now for the sport. That's for sure. Tough spot for the sport. A tough spot for college athletics in general. Mostly we're talking about football and basketball because that's where the NIL dollars are getting funneled into right now, football and men's basketball. But it's definitely happening in other sports too. But maybe not so much, because we did see last night Vermont win a national championship in soccer. I was like, hell yeah, Vermont.
The Catamounts.
Thank God a school like Vermont can still win a championship at the NCAA level. That is beautiful to me.
I forgot that
Vermont.
I forgot there was still some soccer that did a golden goal, it's kind of a lost thing, but it was fun to watch a golden goal finish.
So they won their semifinal match in the College Cup in PKs, and then they won the national championship on the Golden Goal. Peter,
The cardiac catamount.
should we play this? I have a video real quick.
Yeah,
if we're ready for some audio, this is one of the coolest. This is one of the coolest. I mean, this is the coolest probably way you can win a championship. If thumbs up when you're ready. Are we going to throw that in?
Let's try it.
All right, here we go. Here is Vermont winning the soccer national championship last night.
And the center back will blast it long and ask Kissel to get in a foot race with Banter. Kissel may win, and he does! Can he win the national championship? 1v1 against Yannick! Oh my gosh, they do it! Don't call them Cinderella! You can call them national champs! For the first time ever!
Don't call them Cinderella. You can call them national champs. But guy just, wins a one-on-one and then sneaks it past the goal. Vermont.
I loved the guy that was just right in
of the camera.
frame of the camera.
Yeah. Vermont. I love Vermont.
I've lived here my whole life. I think first national title in any sport is what I saw. So good for them.
Yeah, I think it's somebody said it was the first national title for that conference.
Oh,
in any sport.
Okay, wow. That is big.
Good
for them.
All right, so let's see. We have a portal edition here for Nebraska. Looks like East Tennessee State defensive line transfer Jalen George has reportedly committed to. I haven't seen like a graphic or anything out there, but
more defensive additions are always good.
Yeah, we like Nebraska's going to need some players, and that's something we could talk about as we go on. We're going to talk to Allan Bell in a second. Sam writes in on the whole NIL thing. Says, obviously, I hope we never have another recession, but it's interesting to wonder what NIL looks like if there's another recession at some point, and if boosters have less loose money flying around. I think that's another motivated, like another, agent of change, right? Because I think what investors, let's call them investors, have seen at this point is, whoa, like I can have real effect on taking a college football or college basketball program at X school that I probably love and have a connection to, and I can make it good or help make it good immediately with my monetary donation.
Yeah.
Now, like if it doesn't work out for those people after, and once again, it's not just a one-off situation. We're talking about several over time. If you look back and you see, wow, man, just, the book says that it's actually not that smart of an investment strategy to just pour a bunch of money into these X college football program, X college basketball program. Then when were the well run dry, and when will the well run dry on just the money in general? How much can you go back to fans, donors, individual people, boosters, whatever, the programs, and say, okay, yeah, I know this was the price tag. I know we said we could get you this with this, but the price has gone up. We need more, right? How long until more people find that it's just not worth it anymore? Maybe that's the next thing. But there's changes coming from all over the place. So a good point there by Sam. All right. Quick break. Allan Bell will join us on the other side. We'll have some NFL chatter as we gear up for the playoffs. Coming back on 1620 The Zone.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money.
Allan Bell, the AB3, on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
That is right. It is time for our weekly conversation with our dear friend Allan Bell. Driving the line, joins us now on the 42 Degrees of Source hotline. AB, hello, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, sir. You doing all right?
I'm doing great. I want your insight here because a story that I've been following this week has been Tennessee fans' quest to take over every stadium they are asked to travel to. In this case, there is a report out that 42% of the Tennessee-Ohio State tickets sold on SeatGeek have gone to Tennessee residents. That would be a lot of orange for the college football playoff game coming up this Saturday.
A ton of orange. And look, we talk about it all the time. Like, Tennessee and Nebraska are so similar. Like, I feel like Nebraska would do the same thing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Like, this fan base is way larger than people think, and they're just hungry and thirsty for a winner. Now, the funny part is that there's always, like, an ironic bad ending for Tennessee fans, like, when this happens. So it's like they'll buy all the tickets and then leave early when they're down 20. You know what I mean? Like, it'll be something like that. But no, man, like, Tennessee fans got a hold of Ohio State season ticket holder code.
Oh, my God.
Purchase. Yeah, they got a hold of the code and spread it to everyone on message boards and all that. And Tennessee fans bought it.
It's beautiful, man.
Hilarious.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's why we love college football. It's like, so
Yep.
Nebraska is going to play their season opener in Kansas City next year against Cincinnati. They're going to play at Arrowhead Stadium. It's a 3-hour drive. In this case, for Tennessee fans, it's what, like a 5-hour drive to Columbus?
Yeah.
I mean, if we saw as many Tennessee fans as we did for the College World Series, and we're talking about a football game that's like half the drive, and it's actually another opponent's like, I don't know. We could be seeing quite the scene on Saturday evening.
You know, that's the thing too, is that, look, like, I feel like, I mean, there's no one in the college football playoff with more pressure than Ryan Day, right? And I think, honestly, and you tell me this, if I were Ryan Day, I think I actually would have preferred a road game. Honestly, like, I think I would have preferred to go on the road, because if this thing goes south on him immediately, then Ohio State fans will boo and leave. And that's a great fan base. You know what I mean? Like,
it will be ugly if it's not good for Ohio State.
Ugly. And let me tell you, that orange and like singing Rocky Top will get annoying. Like, it'll be a bad scene, man. Like, I honestly, like, as soon as it came out, I was like, man, all right, Ryan Day, I think I might have wanted a road game on this one.
Are they letting like band? Are they letting the band go to this game, or like, how does this work in the college football playoff campus environments?
From what I understand, yes, like the partial road band. Like, I don't think it's the whole thing,
right?
But I'm not sure. But I think it's like, I think it's like whatever their road road band, I guess. I don't know, but I think so, and that's going to make it even more the better. Like, on all fronts, like. Indiana Notre Dame has this feel like, I think Notre Dame could win it all, and it would not surprise me. Like, they're that good, but like, you don't want in-state there. You know what I mean? Like, Indiana taking over South Bend would not be good.
No, would not be a good look for the proud Notre Dame fans. Even though they've had, notably, as we know here in Nebraska, they've had some red teams take over their stadium before.
Exactly.
Which that's a picture that's hanging up on everybody's wall here in the state of Nebraska still.
As it should. Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, as it should, man. Like, that, dude, that's a pelt on the wall. You know what I mean?
This will be that. This will be the next big blown up picture that Tennessee fans could put up on their wall, the takeover of Ohio State.
They'll do it. Hey, and let me tell you this. Go ahead and be prepared for this one, because Tennessee has a lineman who's about 370 pounds. All right, Jesse Spraggins. He plants a flag everywhere he goes.
Oh, no.
He's doing it. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And let me tell you, this dude ain't getting pushed over by anybody. He's a big boy.
They're not gonna stop the cops, so the pepper spray won't get him. They'll just blast right through it.
Oh, let me tell you this. All right, Tennessee's had enough arrests over the years. We ain't worried about any felonies down here. I assure you that.
Nice. All right, let's get to some NFL. That'll be definitely something to watch this weekend. I can't wait.
Yep.
Okay, where are you? Let me get your temperature on a couple teams here. The Minnesota Vikings. What do we do with them right now? Given that like the narrative on them has been, well, they're limited because of what their quarterback gives them, and we are reluctant to put them in the conversation with the big dogs in the NFL. But I don't know. I watched Sam Darnold. I'm like, wait a minute, this guy's really good, and they've been impressive. It's not like they're winning games by 40 or anything like that, but you don't need to in the NFL. What do you think about the Vikings right now as we dredge toward the playoffs?
Yeah, I think you ask a great question, and I think the problem is us, not them.
Yeah,
agreed. I'm with you. Like, they're amazing, and they've got Sam Darnold, who's playing great football. They've got one of the best running backs in the NFL in Aaron Jones. They have arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL in Justin Jefferson. They've got the best run defense in the NFL. They can get after your quarterback. I think they have the best defensive coordinator in the NFL. Like, this team is legit. It's absolutely legit. And playing them isn't fun because you have to be physical too, man. Like, you're going to have to be physical, play old school, and also they are completely fine getting in a shootout because they've got the horses to do it. Like, I'm with you. Like, I don't know if I'm ready to put them like in that like 1A category.
Yeah.
But again, that problem is likely me. It's not them. They're playing great football, man.
Who is in the top category? Is it the Bills and then there's just a break after that, or do you still put the Lions there? Like, what do you do with the Eagles? Kansas City is obviously, you can't kill them very easily. Who is in tier one for you?
It's a great question because we really have the opportunity for chaos this year because there are good teams like that, right? Like, we've got the pocket of like 6 teams that are just elite and they all have their thing. Like, you can't kill the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes has an injury that should have him out for 6 weeks. He might play. I don't know what else to do. Like, this team is just so resilient. They're so good. They're 13-1, and they haven't scored more than 30 points in a game this year. Not one time.
It's amazing.
And they just keep going. The Eagles have a tremendous defense, but I don't know if I trust them. Like, offensively, like, I don't know if I feel good with them in a shootout. The Lions are amazing, but my goodness, they're just getting picked off left and right to injury. You know what I mean? And then, like you said, the Bills are just they don't. You can play a game on the moon, and they're coming out scoring 7 points in 1 minute. Like, they're scary, dude.
So the Chiefs have an interesting little dilemma here. They're in this stretch now where they're playing a lot of games in a short period of time. Obviously, they played this weekend, and then they're going to play against the Texans on Saturday, and then they're going to play on Christmas against the Steelers. So I think it's a 3-game and 10-day little stretch here. Then you have the Mahomes injury. They're 13-1. Like, how do you approach this if you're the Chiefs, knowing that you need to be at your best when the playoffs come around, but also the 1 seed is pretty important too?
Yeah. All right. So the number one, you're right. Right. All right. So the number 1 seed is incredibly important, but most important is being healthy for the playoffs. If I were the Chiefs, there's no way Patrick Mahomes is playing this weekend. Okay. And I'm saying that as, buddy, you just get healthy. Okay. Here's the deal. And I'll tell you why. Playing the Texans. Okay. They just clinched the division. This team is going to take Saturday off. Like, they're not playing great football to begin with.
No.
Right. Like, you don't have to score a lot of points. Now, they have a good defense. They have a great defense, but they don't score a lot of points, and they definitely don't do it in the second half. Like, I haven't seen Carson Wentz, in a while. I don't know where his level is, but if he's just functionable, the Chiefs can win this game without Patrick Mahomes, right? Like I would roll the dice. Yeah, and if you lose the game, not the end of the world. Like the most important thing is Patrick Mahomes being healthy. Like there's no way I play him. Like just give him the week because we can recover. You know what I mean?
One more for you. Why is Joe Burrow not getting any MVP buzz right now?
Because me and you were playing defense for him. Like, it's just horrible.
I guess.
You know, and it's weird, man, because like he's having a great year. Now he does have he had some turnovers against the Titans, but it's not like he has a lot of them. Like he is putting up video game numbers every single week, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 36 touchdowns, 8 picks, leads the league in yards, leads the league in touchdown passes. Like, I mean, he's been really, really good this year.
Really good, right? Really, really good. And like it's weird that we punish a player who's so good and important for his team that like he can't play defense. But that's what an MVP, like the definition is like this team would be 0-15 if they didn't have Joe Burrow. He's literally the team. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it's like it's a weird deal. It's like Mike Tomlin never gets Coach of the Year when, my God, like this dude is pulling out just magic tricks every week. You know what I mean? It's strange. I'm with you there, but it's got to be Josh Allen now, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, like he's a gigantic favorite, but the second name I always hear pop up is Lamar and then Saquon, and I'm like, yeah, those guys are having awesome years, but I mean, Joe Burrow, if you just do the quarterback stat thing, I mean, he's
better than
he's better than them all.
Like yeah, like it goes back to like the argument when people are like, "Oh, Matthew Stafford, there's no way I put him in the Hall of Fame." I'm like, "Have you seen his numbers?
Yeah,
he's way like this guy is definitely a Hall of Famer." But it's like in your head, you don't think about it. You know what I mean? Like, and again, it's probably an us problem. You know, like it's probably on us. I'm with you.
Allan, before we let you go, I assume you have a thought on Jerry Jones proclaiming that he has enjoyed many a raccoon and squirrel brain. Very confusing interview this morning. I just saw the quote and I had to bring it up to your attention.
Yeah, Jerry Jones, I don't know what he's talking about here. Let me say the state animal for the state of Tennessee is the raccoon, and nobody here is eating any raccoon brain or anything like I don't know where Jerry Jones is going, but apparently my man had himself a good weekend. Whatever he did this weekend, he had some fun with it.
I think they decided on those radio interviews that they just weren't going to talk football anymore. They're just going to ask him random questions, probably for the best.
Yeah, I would just say like, "Hey, I work for you, Jerry," even though that I don't. Let's talk about something else.
Anything you got, Jerry? Go ahead. He's like, I like squirrels. I'm like, all right, I guess we'll go with that. All right, AB.
All right, Raiders are up.
Appreciate it, my friend. We'll talk to you soon.
I appreciate it. Take care, man.
Allan Bell driving the line. You can check out picks and all sorts of analysis over there with Allan. We will be back. We'll have Peter's Odd News on the other side on 1620 The Zone.
And now we've reached the point in the show where Josh Odson reads the peculiar, the bizarre, the comical, the odd news with Odd Son. Odd news, Odd Son. See what we did there? The odd news with Oddson.
It's the odd news with the Peter man. Peter's got some odd news for us.
Some odd news. And okay,
a lot of odd news out there, Peter.
I will admit that one of these was briefly touched upon in the crossover.
It's okay.
So we'll get into it a little bit more than we did during then, but we'll start off with this non-sports odd news. There's a googly eye bandit in the city of Bend, Oregon.
Oh, we're putting googly eyes on stuff again?
Googly eyes on art. Pieces of art that are just in public.
You know,
and the city officials do not like it.
I usually think that when I see this, I usually think it's pretty funny.
And
I don't know that I support it because I don't know that I would support the desecration of art.
And that's the thing. That's the conflict because
it's funny.
They got quotes from a few people that said that it was hilarious to see, like just googly eyes on this giant ball of metal. But then the city officials are like, "Well, we get it. It's fun, but it does cost money to remove them. The adhesive is damaging to the art."
Yes,
and they did actually name a figure that. This happened to 8 sculptures, it looks like.
Wow.
7 have been had googly eyes removed, and that cost $1,500.
$1,500 to the city.
Just to take googly eyes off of stuff.
Well, I hope they find this man and prosecute woman and prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. I would imagine that they're documenting this on TikTok.
Oh, I'm sure.
Just check TikTok.
Yeah. It's do a quick search, you'll find it. It does look rather funny.
It is funny. So I'm looking at a picture of it looks like some bronze deer or elk.
Yep, there was mention of that.
Pretty funny. Deer with googly eyes, Peter. I'm in.
The animals, it's definitely funny on the animals.
But desecration of art, I might be out. I don't want to support that. Okay. Very interesting.
Funny for a one-time thing, but the city officials are over it officially.
Okay.
So this next thing was briefly discussed on the crossover, how Adam Schefter made an initial report that Sacramento State was in talks with Mike Vick for potential head coaching opportunity at school. Went on to list a few of the things that they're doing to advance the program, move up to FBS, $50 million in NIL, new stadium, etc. Doug Gottlieb, media personality and head coach.
That's true. The rare combo.
Green Bay basketball.
Yes.
Many forget. Was quick to chime in and quote the report by saying, "Jesus, Shefty, edit what agents tell you. 0% chance Sac State has $50 million in NIL." Kind of a hilarious response from somebody who's the head coach of a college basketball program.
Look, he's got to have takes and be a head coach at the same time. You have to do both.
That's
got to
be such a peculiar position to be in. That's just. But so it did get. Oh no!
There was a response.
Oh, here. Okay, I thought he might have deleted it. I did find it. So he responded. The Sac-12 leading the school's NIL efforts already announced it was reaching its initial gross. So basically a direct response to Gottlieb. And then totally without hesitation, a double Schefter reply. And Jesus, Doug, a 7-game losing streak and last place in the Horizon League, less time on social, more time in the gym, with a screenshot of the current Horizon League standings. And there's Green Bay 0-3, 2-10 overall.
2-10. Ouch.
So he went for the jugular on the second reply.
All right. So once again, I hate to do this, but like Gottlieb is right. So when Schefter puts out there that that Sacramento State is courting head coaches and they have a new stadium that they're building and they have over $50 million in NIL money, it paints a picture. But Sacramento State does not have $50 million in NIL money. They have a group of investors that are investing $50 million into the program or whatever and want to see it succeed, like we were talking about with NIL earlier. But in order for Sacramento State to be that competitive in that space, they have to have facilities and they have to have coaches. Like if you have $50 million in NIL, which somebody said that it was, I think Mandel tweeted last night, it's like 2.5 times the Ohio State roster at this point in NIL money of $50 million. Like it doesn't work that way. You can't just say we have $50 million to pay our players.
We have all the dollars.
That's really cool. And you do have $50 million, but you also need to build a stadium and you also need to upgrade everything that you're doing. And then you can have the NIL on top of that. I doubt that they would have much money left over after the initial investment to be able to bring Sacramento State, of all institutions, up to par in the football world as far as facilities and things like that are concerned. That stuff still matters. So what Gottlieb said was, edit what the agents tell you, 0.0% chance that Sac State is $50 million in NIL. He's right. I hate to say this.
And
I am not Team Gottlieb ever, but he is right.
And Gary mentioned when he was there, he's like, yeah, no.
They don't have that.
It's not a thing. And he did eventually reply, have to raise money for all these things, saying it's $50 million is disingenuous.
I do love Gottlieb getting dunked on. Don't get me wrong.
I just thought it was a fun exchange.
But you have to do it like it's got to be truthful, you know? Ultimately, like I would love to see Schefter get dunked on too. That'd be sweet.
Yeah.
I wish somebody would do that.
Franklin replied to Gottlieb and said, maybe Sac State acquired some buy now, pay later NIL funding, like a credit card.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Franklin chiming in as well.
Nice. Okay. One more.
All right. And we'll end it on this. This has been a saga, to say the least. And I watched this. I don't know if almost anyone would have watched this entire thing that's tuning into the show right now, but the Travis Hunter girlfriend saga has been interesting to say the least.
I've seen a little bit of it. Yes, please explain it to me.
So it's a lot of different components.
She got mad because he was taking pictures with other people.
So it's been just a few different things that have kind of boiled over. There was the clip of the Oklahoma State game when they won like 52-0. She looked upset during the post game. People were like, "What on earth does she have to be mad about?" There was rumors he was talking to the cheerleader. Like, it was
no,
just like narratives spinning out. Then they're in New York for the Heisman stuff. There's an Adidas signing. He just signed this huge deal with Adidas. There's a video of her there looking like she doesn't want to be there, asking him questions. Then there's the actual Heisman ceremony when he wins the award, and she does not initially stand up to applaud and congratulate her fiance, because they are engaged, which I thought they were just boyfriend and girlfriend. I've learned that they are actually engaged. So she apparently has had just about enough of the hearsay, and I stumbled across this. It was originally posted on her TikTok, so if you are on the TikTok, you can find it at looks like Leanne. Oh God, I don't even know how to say her last name. Leanna Lene 6, I think. Yes, that is it on TikTok. It's okay. So
I'm backing away, Peter. This is all.
And this is the tough part. It's an 8-minute long video, and I did watch the entire thing. To get her whole gist of what she said was going on. She essentially just debunked everything and got into the nitty gritty of all of it. And the main takeaway was that this was the start of this video, which I thought was wild. He DM'd her when they weren't together. They didn't know each other. He DM'd her. She said she didn't look at it for 2 months because she knew he was with someone else. And she's like, I don't home wreck. I don't do that. I respect other women.
Wow.
That's how the video began.
It's got very complicated.
And then it just and then she addressed each individual incident and listed the reasons why she was acting the way she was. And I thought they were all actually pretty do I think any of it's true? I don't know because I wasn't there. But she defended herself. But then, the replies to this, she did herself no favors by starting with the cheating thing.
Very public.
Like, here's a reply. In the first 60 seconds, she threw him under the bus, then doubled down and said he wasn't her type because he was a cheater.
I don't know what's going on. I hope both of these people.
Did you get the license plate of the bus she threw him under?
I hope everybody's happy.
So
I love love. I've loved.
Yeah,
I've loved love for a long time.
She's not doing great right now. So
yikes.
The internet does the internet and says things. But I don't normally deep dive into this stuff, but I was like, this could be good for the odd news.
There we are. Thank you for kind of explaining that to us, Peter.
Yeah, I tried to not take up an insane amount of time by explaining all of the points she makes. But if you want to check it out, it's on TikTok and on Twitter.
Oh, it's definitely all out there. That's for sure. All right. That is the odd news. Back with the noon hour where I have some concerns. NFL reaction, overreaction also coming up on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back. Noon hour here on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. Jacob Bigelow will still join the show coming up in about an hour. We'll talk Husker hoops with him as they head off to the historic Diamond Head Classic.
Some Christmas Day ball.
Some Christmas Day ball against some bad teams. Nebraska needs to win some games. They need to be the winners of the Diamond Head Classic.
And Jacob, we can double check on this. I think this might be their first ever game against Murray State.
First ever game against Murray State.
I don't know. I thought I saw that.
I love that. If that's a stat, I haven't seen the notes yet. It's very, very possible. By the way, quick NFL thing here, real quick. Schefter, who's done messing with Doug Gottlieb on Twitter. He says the NFL has moved the Dolphins-Browns game out of Sunday Night Football in Week 17 and has replaced it with Falcons-Commanders. So more playoff viable game with more at stake in Week 17. That is for Sunday Night Football. Sorry,
and that's the second to last week.
That's right. Can't wait to find out what Week 18 Sunday Night Football is. It's going to be great.
Yeah. I think that usually comes about a week ahead.
It's pretty organic.
Once they know.
They'll find one game that means, that's like winner in for both teams.
Also, this is why no one should ever listen to me. There has been one meeting between the Racers and Huskers.
When was this?
It was in 2000, December 30th.
Don't remember that game.
79-71 Murray State wins.
Where was that game at?
It says it was in Lincoln.
All right. At the Bob Devaney Sports Center. If anybody remembers that game, please let me know, because you're
almost 24 years to the day.
You're an absolute sicko if you do. All right, so I'm going to get out my concern sign again.
There it is.
Concern.
Oh, God. Concern.
So Nebraska got a guy in the transfer portal, a defensive lineman. Nice job by them. A guy from East Tennessee State. I'm not concerned about that. That's a good thing. Nebraska adding players to the roster. But I said yesterday that I feel like I've noticed this maybe a little bit too much. It's not a bad thing to go after players who come from lower levels of college football, whether it's the G5, they have some production to their name, they're a little bit older, or even the FCS level. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing in general. But I was thinking about, the types of players that are visiting Nebraska or interested in visiting Nebraska right now compared to sort of what I've seen at other programs that Nebraska is going to be competing with. And I just noticed a little bit of difference. And I think this is it. I feel like Nebraska just has borderline too much that they have to add to their roster at this point.
It does seem like we're getting to that point.
These next 10 days before the portal closes, or I think it's 10 days. I think it's still 10 more days. I just like this is a big weekend coming up. And it's a big week before they're going to head to the bowl game early next week. And so you've had that, you know what? And honestly, and I'm just thinking of this now. So, let me know how this lands. The bowl game almost feels like a burden for Nebraska at the moment. They have so much that they have to replace on their roster. They have so much. And I feel like you're in a spot where you're not in the same spot as it appears that other programs are. Now, we follow Nebraska very, very closely, and so everything is life or death. But I look around at these other programs, and it just feels like they're in some spots where they're not, they meaning everyone. Obviously, everyone is not in a better situation. But if you are a team where you're in a spot where you're just adding to fill a hole here and there, Nebraska's done that over the last couple of years. Plug a guy or two in and make them a starter. Jamal Banks and Isaiah Nair, right? Nebraska had almost everything coming back on their defense last year. They felt like they needed to get better at the wide receiver spot. They did, and they were aggressive about the way that they went after guys in the portal as far as that position was concerned. This year, there's so much that Nebraska needs to replace. And a lot of it can be supplemented with what you already have on your roster. You can, continue to elevate the players that you have been developing over the last couple of years that are waiting for an opportunity, this and this and this. But look at the volume at which Nebraska is bringing in players to visit out of the transfer portal. And now they're getting a couple commitments here and there as well. But I think there's a connection there between the volume of which Nebraska is bringing these players in to court them in the transfer portal and the fact that they're coming from the FCS and the fact that they're coming from the group of 5 schools. And what is the connection? It's just a theory. But I feel like the schools that can plug and play, kind of what Nebraska did last year, like I said with Nair and Banks, those guys are in a good position because they can bring whatever they want to the table in NIL. You have your NIL taken care of for your roster already, and therefore you know what you have to work with. And then you can make the offer to the guy that you feel like you really need, or you need a starter in this position, considering that there's only going to be 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of them. And you could drive up that number as much as you want. You could pay whatever you want for them. Because not that you have like unlimited money, but you can overpay because you need your need is so limited and niche, right? Nebraska needs multiple starters in the transfer portal. And I feel like it's a bit of a tough ask at this point to go out and get that. And especially from Power 5 schools where guys who are starters at Power 5 schools where they already have, a certain expectation in terms of the kind of money that they're going to be compensated with. I just don't feel like Nebraska can't sit there and fork over, 20-30% of their NIL pot to 1 or 2 guys in the transfer portal this year because there's so many that they have to go out and get. Now, at the same time, and by the way, you're seeing a big push from 1890 over the last couple of days about, hey, donating. This is really, really important. Nebraska needs this because they know the players that they're going after are also going to be courted by other schools, and those other schools probably just have less holes that they need to fill at this point. Probably. I just feel like there's a lot there for Nebraska. So I am in a current state of concern. I am in a current state of concern. I don't know what this is going to end up looking like in a couple weeks for Nebraska, but I guess I have doubts at this point that they'll be able to fill the roster with guys out of the transfer portal that are, that have been major difference makers at major schools in their most recent stop, in their previous stop. I feel like Nebraska, not that they're going to the bargain bin or anything like that. Like, I don't want to categorize it that way because, like I said, there's good football players at all levels. But also, I just think Nebraska is limited in terms of what they could bring to the table in NIL, not because their NIL situation is worse than everybody else's, but because of the volume of players that they have to go and try to court compared to the other schools. Does that make sense? I mean, so that's where I'm sort of at right now. And there's a lot to figure out. And you don't have to have your roster done in the next 10 days. You don't have to have your roster done in the next 4 months. Although it'd be, and at least Nebraska's not dealing with a situation where they have to go out and find a starting quarterback, like they have that. And, but they need, we could just go through it, right? Like, I feel like they need 1 or 2 starting offensive linemen. We'll see what they're developing at receiver, but you have Barney, like that's good. But I feel like you're probably going to need some more real contributors there, and they're going out and finding starters in the portal in that regard. One of their top targets is a guy who was super duper productive. You know, you need a punter. Not that that's going to be like a whole NIL, deal. Nebraska probably with the loss of Dante Dowdell in the transfer portal might be wise to add another running back. Is it a starter caliber running back? I don't know. We'll see what they're able to offer. They need. They've gotten a couple defensive linemen. They probably need still more. Like you just look all across the board. I just named basically every position. And Nebraska needs like starter caliber players at those. So what are you able to do with the people that are available to you, combined with the volume that you need and the money that you have at your fingertips that you have to offer? I'm a little concerned. That's all. So let's go to the comments here real quick. Sal says we're a feeder school right now. I don't overreact, and people always say it's like, oh, we're just a feeder school to whatever. Gosh, it really not that all of Nebraska's best players left and got poached off of other rosters, because that's not a fair characterization. But when you think about it in the context of like, so Jamari Butler went to LSU, and James Williams is going to go to Florida State, and there was another defensive lineman in the portal that I'm missing that is as Prince Will is Ole Miss bound, and Mekhi Bear is Missouri. Like all those guys, that's 4 SEC guys, right? Nebraska has got a transfer from Missouri, and they just got one from East Tennessee State. And a lot of the other guys that I've seen on the radar come from places like FIU. I know there's a couple Washington guys in there. I know there was a Michigan guy in there, but a lot of those guys come with the resume of they weren't starters. I mean, Nebraska lost 4, I guess really 3, right? Bear, Butler, and maybe just 2, I suppose. They lost a couple starters to SEC schools. Guys who they were really hoping and planning on being there next year. And then they, 2 contributors. And that's not all that they've lost. I don't even know what the transfer portal exit list looks like at this moment, but those are the 4 guys that I could sort of think about. Headley says, everyone we lost is easily replaceable in the portal. Yeah, but like 1-to-1, you might be right. 1-to-1, you might be right. Like, can you go out there and find a Mekhi Bear to Mekhi Bear replacement? Yeah, you can. But what I'm saying here is, if you're adding a replacement Mekhi Bear, or a better Mekhi Bear, or a better Jamari Butler, and a better Prince Will, and a better James Williams, and a better Dante Dowdell, all at once, it's hard to pay all of those guys what the market is demanding they get at this moment. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm saying. So I agree with you 1-to-1. But I don't, it's not viewed that way. You have to look at it in the context of what the rest of the roster is looking like. Douglas writes in, he says, Connor, your basis of opinion that Nebraska is struggling more. Can you compare Nebraska against like Iowa's situation, for example? Like, this is not news. Like, Nebraska has a lot of guys in the transfer portal at this moment. And we all expected it, and nobody was surprised, and they had a lot of staff turnover and all that stuff. But, are they going to go out and some of this is on the players too. Like, this is not necessarily a Nebraska problem. But they have definitely fallen victim this year to having a lot of guys go into the transfer portal. There's just a lot. I don't know what the number is. I don't know what the number is compared to Iowa. But it's like it is given Nebraska quite the hit. Not only the starter hit, but a depth hit and all of that stuff as well. Guys that you were planning on being players eventually down the line. There's also a separate category of players who they left and it doesn't have any effect on anything. There's that too. When you lose starters, I mean, you have to hope that you could find better replacements for them. That's all. Like so Headley follows up. He says, "How many all-conference players left Nebraska for the portal?" None, according to the Big Ten this year. I'm not trying to make it out like these guys are the best players in the world, but look at who they're bringing in on visits, and we could sit here and make the guy who committed from East Tennessee State like, hey, this guy had however many sacks. I'm not saying he is better or worse, but I'm saying that you have to get if you think Jamari Butler's fine, okay, maybe getting one Jamari Butler is not that hard, but getting 6 Jamari Butlers is harder. Right? That's the point. I'm not trying to make the guys Nebraska lost out to be All-Americans. I'm just saying it's a numbers game, and Nebraska is seemingly, based on what I've seen from the visits and whatever, having a difficult time. Like it's the players that they're bringing in are just come from a different football background than a lot of the players that they've lost. That's for sure. Like, yeah, Sam writes in, who needs depth and reliable starters? Who needs any of those things?
Who needs it?
Yeah, right. Like, I get we want to make every player that left out to be the worst, replaceable and all that stuff. And like, to a certain extent, I agree with you guys. I know what you're saying. But also when it becomes such a big number, you start, Will Smith looking around the room like, okay, well, what is this actually going to look like? And right now, I think Nebraska's in a massive state of flux. In a bad time to be in a massive state of flux. I'd love to be in a position right now where where Nebraska can look down the rest of their roster and they could say, all right, cool. Freshmen, elevate. Like, everything is set. But the truth is we haven't, I am excited about Willis McGahee's future. I am excited about Vincent Shaver's future. Shavers actually, played quite a bit for Nebraska this past year, but and McGahee a little bit less. One of the downsides of this year, as I said throughout the season, while the season was going on, is that Nebraska leaned so hard on their older defensive players that they did not necessarily get as much developed. Like, Prince Will played less this year. And Cam Lenhart played less this year than they did in their freshman season. Riley Van Poppel redshirted this year. Luckily, you were, able to hang on to him. Gosh, that would have been a disaster. Nebraska had redshirted him this year, and unnecessarily redshirted him this year, and then he transferred anyway. Ugh. That would have been a tough one to swallow. It didn't happen that way. So I'm not this is not like a red alert situation. Not a red alert situation. But I just have concerns at this moment. That's all, on what it's going to look like going forward. By the way, I got or is anybody still? Oh yeah, somebody said on YouTube, on Twitter, sorry, that Bill Brasky, don't forget all the playoff teams will still have portal guys that can hit once their season is done. Oh boy, that's a small window. It's a small window. That will likely be the case after the first round of playoff teams, gets bounced out this weekend. Small window week after that. And there's probably still another head coach, but your pool, there's still a head coach to move, and therefore the portal opens for them. But you're minimizing your window, your pool of players that you have to select from. And once again, everybody is going to be after those players from college football playoff teams. And Nebraska needs to fill so many holes. Do they have the money to be able to say, yeah, I would love to sign Juan Soto and Pete Alonso and Bobby Witt Jr. and Aaron Judge. I would like to sign all
Sounds
of them
fun.
to free agent deals, but you can't. There's not enough money on God's green earth to do
What
it.
if they were to defer all of the money?
Well, you could maybe do that. I will give you $80 million in 2061. Maybe you could start doing. Maybe that's the new move. Start doing deferred money with interest to college football players.
There it is, the Dodgers blueprint.
We found it.
We've solved it.
That is the new market inefficiency of college football. All right, we'll come back. Little NFL reaction overreaction. We could also get to some of your thoughts on that when we return here on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone. All right, NFL reaction, overreaction in a second. I want to get to your guys' reaction to our most recent topic. Also, hilariously, I saw a tweet during the break. Somebody put together a list. It was the Big Ten huddle. Total players in the transfer portal for each Big Ten team. So your question to me was, listeners' question to me was, is there any data to support this? Is Nebraska really having a more difficult time than some of the others as far as players that they've lost? Nebraska has the second most players in the transfer portal at this moment of the Big Ten teams. Purdue is the most. Purdue is the one school in the conference that has made a coaching change. Also, people forget they went 1-11 this year. Bad. Wisconsin also up there, 17, which is third most in the league. They did not make a bowl game. They've made some staff changes as well. And really, that's the consistent theme. And then you see some of the, better teams at the bottom of this list. Ohio State, 6 guys in the portal. Oregon, 5 guys in the portal. Penn State, 4 guys in the portal. All playoff teams. Indiana, 7 guys in the portal. Playoff team. That's 4 of the bottom, 6 in the conference, along with Northwestern and Rutgers, as far as the least players in the transfer portal. Now, keep in mind, as the tweeter mentioned earlier, their seasons are still going on, so that's important to sort of note as well. But now once again, part of this is Nebraska had a roster that was, they need to get a lot of walk-ons out the door. But listen to the list just real quick. So, scholarship players, I would consider to be real scholarship players. Now, there's all the NIL and everything like that. But scholarship players, Nebraska would have carried these people on their 85. They're in the transfer portal. Dowdell, Daniel Kalen, Jamari Butler, Prince Will, Stephon Thompson, Kobe Bretz, Isaiah McMorris, Keanu Davis, who came back in, AJ Rollins, Eric Gilbert still shows up on here, funny enough. Dwight Boodle, Sincere Safiula. Once again, Malachi Coleman, Vincent Jackson, James Williams, Brody Tagaloa, Davon Hall, Prince Will, Mekhi Bayer, Gabe Irvin, Ethan Nation. That's a hefty 12 to 15. I would have liked to have those guys here. I think there was probably still more to get out of them. So it's not all just they're walk-ons and it doesn't really matter that much. The other thing here before we get to NFL reaction, overreaction is so been paying close attention to what's going on with Scott Frost at UCF. What's Scott Frost going to do with his staff? Well, he's going to get the old band back together, and Sean Beckton will probably be there, and Mackenzie Milton will be there, and all this stuff. Here's from Pete Thamel. Wisconsin assistant Alex Grinch has emerged as the expected hire for UCF's defensive coordinator job. Thamel adds that Grinch is a veteran DC with time at USC, Oklahoma, and Washington State. Now, keep in mind, Alex Grinch at one point in time was looked at as sort of a rising star in the game. For his time, he was pretty successful enough, I suppose, at Washington State. He was there under Leach. He was the DC from 15 to 17. Then he went to Urban Meyer's staff at Ohio State as their defensive coordinator. And then he got the Oklahoma job. I get the sense that it's tough to be Lincoln Riley's defensive coordinator, for the record. 3 years Oklahoma, 19, 20, 21. And it was not good for any of the three. Notably not good. They had to score a lot of points to win football games at Oklahoma when Alex Grinch was their defensive coordinator. Then he went with Lincoln Riley to USC. And he was fired at near the end of last season. Didn't actually even finish off last season. And this year, he was, as Pete Thamel noted, at Wisconsin as their co-defensive coordinator and safeties coach. Wisconsin did not go to a bowl game this year, and their defense was as bad or worse as any Wisconsin defense that I have seen since Nebraska has been in the league. So quite the resume for Mr. Grinch at this moment. He is headed off to be Scott Frost's defensive coordinator. Maybe that's just a place that's inviting a lot of people to go back and just like, hey, you can resurrect your career here. It's going to work out. We'll see if it works out for both Scott and Alex Grinch. All right, NFL reaction, overreaction. Peter, I don't know if you're familiar with this. So each week we have the writers of our show. We have writers. We have a team. They sit upstairs. They don't see the light of day much. Several NFL takes, and they carefully craft these takes, and then they deliver them to us on Tuesday morning, and they say, all right, now you have to decide whether these are appropriate reactions or if they are overreactions to what has happened this past weekend and beyond in the NFL. So without further ado, Peter, let's see what the writers have produced for us this week.
All right, we'll kick it off with this. Of the wild card teams, you are most afraid of the Green Bay Packers.
Of the wild card teams, I am most afraid of the Green Bay Packers. All right, so here are the wild card teams. This is in both leagues. I assume the writers are talking.
Yeah, that's what I would assume.
You have whatever happens with Baltimore, Pittsburgh. Baltimore's a game back. Denver, the Chargers in the AFC. That's pretty much it. Your Colts are not going to do it.
No,
Peterman.
It's over.
Then you have whatever happens in the NFC West. One of the Rams or Seattle. I'm not more scared of either of those teams than I am of Green Bay at this point.
Especially since Green Bay just beats you.
The football Commanders, and then the Vikings or the Lions. I don't know. I think I would probably put them like, if you're asking me to pick, 2-3 teams out of that pool of teams I just gave you, I think Green Bay would probably be third. I think you could make a case for second. They did, but at the same time, they do feel like one of those teams that kind of makes plays when they need to, right? It's like things were getting a little sketchy the other night against Seattle, and they make the plays when they need to, right? I kind of trust them. Trust is a big factor when selecting the postseason teams and figuring out who's going to make a run here. Do I trust them more than Baltimore in the postseason? Maybe. That's where you can make the case. Do I trust them more than Minnesota or Detroit? I don't know that I could say that yet. We know Green Bay, now people have to slow down here a little bit with the whole Sam Darnold, Jordan Love, Jared Goff thing. Sam Darnold is really good. Jordan Love is probably at the top, I guess, of that heap. He might be the quarterback exclusively out of that group that you might trust the most. But gosh, I don't know if I could say that I trust them as a team more than Minnesota or Detroit right now. Do I trust them more than Denver? Yes. Do I trust them more than the Chargers? Yes.
It really just comes down to those NFC North teams.
I am not most afraid of the Green Bay Packers. If I'm a divisional champ or if I'm a playoff team, but I am definitely afraid of the Green Bay Packers. I would not like to play the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs. Next.
And we'll see what Detroit's made of with all the injuries.
Yeah. If you listen to Mr. Campbell this morning on the radio, he had a lot of F words to say. He did. He was like, "We're doesn't matter. We're gonna bleep and do it. We're gonna win by 1 point. It doesn't matter how we do it. We're gonna eat people's knees or whatever he says."
Then we'll take another kneecap.
Yeah, he did the whole
thing.
thing.
Go to Applebee's.
Yep.
All right. nothing,
Nothing.
and I mean
nothing,
can stop the train known as the Buffalo Bills.
Man, they have just passed every test, haven't they? They smacked around the. I know it got close late, but had their way with the Lions this weekend. Obviously, the Rams, beat them a couple weeks ago, but I didn't really view that as like, hey, let's prove and let's see what the Bills are. They beat the Chiefs, and they have the pedigree, right? And they have Josh Allen. He's the MVP of the league. We might discuss this a little bit more in this segment, but I can't say that they won't for sure. Like, I'm not going to tell you that they're for sure going to win the Super Bowl. Are they the best team right now? Yeah. I feel the best about them at this moment. But we'll see what that looks like in a couple weeks, and then we'll see what they're matched up in the playoffs. I tell you, like, I know that the Bills are a better football team than the Kansas City Chiefs. I know that the Bills are better. And I've seen it play out in the football field that way. But it's almost like it's kind of one of those, I need to see it. I need to see it happen first. I need to see them beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. The Bills win against Detroit this weekend, marked their 8th straight game with 30-plus points. Ties the longest such streak in NFL history. It was also done by the 2000 Rams, the 2007 Patriots, the 2010 Patriots, and the 2013 Broncos. And they also had 559 yards against Detroit's defense. But still, I'm going to believe it when I see it situation with them. I'm sorry. I love Josh Allen. Josh, I love you. You're my best friend. But still want to see it happen.
It's a dogfight.
And until it happens, it hasn't happened yet. Next.
Now heading to Tampa. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a legitimate contender in the NFC.
Yeah, they keep passing tests too. So they're currently set in as, if you look at the playoff form, if you look at the way the playoffs are set up right now, the season ended today, that type of thing, like they're either going to be the 3 or the 4. I'll tell you this, they look a whole lot better than Atlanta. They're going to win that division, right? They feel like the best team in that division, even though they're beat up too. So they'll either be the 3 or the 4. So get a home game, right? And you match up against a really, really good wild card team. I wouldn't be surprised to see Tampa Bay win, even though what I just said about Minnesota and Detroit and Green Bay, I wouldn't be surprised to see Tampa win a playoff game. I could just see them being in that NFL title game. They've smacked the Eagles, they beat the Lions, and they have now smacked, as impressive of a win for many like fringe type of playoff team as we've seen all year, smacking around the Los Angeles Chargers this weekend. And on a personal note, I still love watching Levante David play football. Still happening.
Oh, yeah.
Still happening at a very high level. I don't know. It feels like they're the team that's kind of sitting there like, hey, don't forget about us. I would treat them that way. I would treat them that way, even though they're a little turnover prone at the quarterback position. But that's Baker doing Baker. You take the good with the bad with Baker. One more. It's
your friend Josh Allen. Is
Josh Allen
Mr. Joe Burrow? And you're chatting with Allen about this earlier.
Yes.
Is Joe Burrow?
How did the writers know?
Giving Josh Allen a run for his money.
So he's not
for MVP.
According to the odds, he is definitely not. But I can't really figure out why. He leads the league in passing yards. He leads the league in passing touchdowns. He has very few interceptions. I think he's top 10 in qualified guys in that category. I mean, he's single-handedly, I shouldn't say because he's getting a lot of help from Jamar Chase, and Chase Brown's been good and stuff like that this year. But notably, he has no defense whatsoever. Now, the Bengals are, because of that, pretty stinky. But he's going to throw for almost 5,000 yards, like 4,500 yards 40 plus touchdowns, around 10 interceptions. And he'll have one of the top like QBRs in the league and all that stuff. Like he has checked all the boxes this year. He has been very, very good. Unfortunately, Josh Allen does exist, and he is going to win the MVP at this point. But it should be noted that Joe Burrow has been quite good at the elite level over really the stretch of this entire season. But them getting off to that tough start just sunk them, and they haven't been able to get out of that hole. Okay, Riders, great job. Thank you, Riders.
Good stuff.
That is NFL reaction, overreaction. We'll come back. I won't have a top 5 today, and I won't have a bottom 5 either. But we'll come back, and we still have a few more things to get into, and I want to get to your comments as well. Back after this on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone. writes in on YouTube, who's the guy laying next to Connor in the grass picture that we had up during the break? YouTube user said, I think it's the field goal kicker for Iowa Western. That's right. Not to be mistaken with our own dear Josh Johnson. Josh for mayor. Yesterday there was quite the local story. It was just so perfectly made for Josh Johnson that I didn't even bring it up yesterday on the show because I felt that I couldn't do it justice. And that was our mayor dispelling internet rumors that she lives in a different city. And I just thought that I thought that was so perfectly made for Josh in the sense that what would have happened if Josh was here is that I would have presented him with that story. He already knew it, but I would have laid out that story, and then I would have done this, Peter. I would have just sat here like this, way back here. I would have just stepped away from the mic.
Just take it all in.
For about 5 to 7 minutes, probably. We didn't do it because I feel as if I couldn't do the story justice, and I don't have much of an opinion. Another old friend alert. Another addition to Scott Frost's staff at UCF.
Ooh.
UCF is expected to hire Kansas's Mike Dawson as a defensive assistant coach. He, of course, was here with Scott Frost at Nebraska, and he was at UCF previously. So he kind of really is getting the band back together, isn't he? A lot of familiar names going to be on Frost's staff. All right, Jacob Balo is going to join us here in just a couple minutes. We'll talk about Husker hoops with him. Mentioned this story earlier with AB. Had to bring it up to him because he's surrounded by orange, and he is an orange man himself. There was a report from the Tennessee On3 arm. 42% of Tennessee Ohio State tickets sold on SeatGeek have gone to Tennessee residents. Now, keep in mind, this is just one off sale, like one third party ticket broker. So important. But actually, this is originally reported by Ben Koo. And per SeatGeek, 42% of tickets resold on the platform have gone to Tennessee residents. Professional resellers holding a huge amount of tickets. Prices are quickly dropping. So, a couple things here. First of all, we talked about the Tennessee effect. Tennessee fans are insane. You know them. They're just like you. They're just like you, except for they wear orange instead of red. If there is a party, if there's an opportunity to make a scene, they're there. And we've seen many stadiums, painted in orange that weren't Neyland Stadium over the years. But the other thing here is the unsurprising apathy toward a college football playoff quarterfinal game from Ohio State fans. Don't lose to Michigan, kids. They don't tell you that in school. Peter, they don't tell you that in school, but they really should. They should tell you, whatever you do, if you happen to be the football coach at Ohio State, don't lose to Michigan. They should tell you that.
Especially not 4 times in a row.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely not 4 times in a row. So much so, that has such an effect that the level of interest on the college football play. Ohio State got a home game. That's how respected they are in college. They lost 2 games this year, and they didn't get into their own conference championship game, and yet they got a home game in the college football playoff, and they get to host another major brand of the sport who is sitting just 5 hours away. And it seems as if there is some real life apathy toward Ohio State football at this moment. I would imagine. Now, I have heard nothing to suggest that, and I have read, I have seen really nothing to suggest that firing Ryan Day still now is on the table. In fact, I don't really think it is. But I would imagine Ross Bjork and the Admiral and all the people in charge over there at Ohio State are thinking, whoa. The fans have sent a message. If there's that many tickets available for resale and they're all getting gobbled up by Tennessee fans, and then you get there on Saturday night and it's going to be an awesome atmosphere, and you get there on Saturday night and the whole thing is painted in orange or even 50% of it, that is embarrassing. That is embarrassing. They're going to get to host, they're going to be one of the first 4 schools to host a college football playoff game ever. And they could not be less excited about it. I got to be honest with you, like, it's very funny. Like, I personally am enjoying this saga, watching it play out, because I have just as much disdain for Ohio State as anybody else does. But don't get that confused with my matching, if not more passionate hate for Michigan. But it is not pretty. It is not pretty up there right now. So Chris says on YouTube, Michigan broke Ohio State. I mean, Ohio State fans are insane. You guys know this, right? But like, yeah, they are not feeling the vibe right now. Not feeling the vibe. And I would imagine that there is a section, if not a pretty wide group in that Ohio State fan base who are probably secretly saying to themselves, if not out loud, saying, I kind of hope we lose. I kind of hope we lose just so we can end this. And what a crazy, crazy, crazy place to be. All right. We're back after this with our dear friend. No rivalries here. Jacob Bigelow of Huskers Illustrated coming up on 1620 The Zone.
heating up.
That's the country song, right? Remember when?
Thank you.
Jacob Bigelow.
Yeah. Whenever my open is concocted, throw that in there.
He's on fire.
Jacob Bigelow, Huskers Illustrated, on the Connor Happer Show, on 1620, The Zone.
Boom shakalaka. All right, joined now on the 42 Degrees, The Source Hotline by our good friend Jacob Bigelow, Huskers Illustrated, and the Stretch Big Pod. Jacob, good afternoon, my friend. How are you?
Doing well, Happer. I realized this is probably our last chat it definitely is our last chat for a little while. So we got to make the most of this one.
Oh, well, I don't know. It may be because we're definitely off next week. New Year's Eve, maybe. I almost for sure won't be here at 1:00 in 2 Tuesdays, but maybe somebody will call you. I don't know.
We'll have to cross that bridge when we get to it. But no,
yeah.
I looked at the calendar and I'm like, oh, no, dang, this was last time on with Happer for a little bit. Got to make the most of it.
Yep, we do. I'm sure you're looking forward to the Diamond Head Classic. Have you written several preview articles and podcasts about the Diamond Head Classic?
Absolutely the hell not. But I am kind of looking forward to having some after dark hoops Christmas week starting on Sunday night. I was thinking back to the last time Nebraska was in this tournament exactly 10 years ago when I was I believe a sophomore in high school, and
I remember.
It was the team after the team that made the tournament. So it was Petaway and Shields, and they went out there, and it was quite the adventure for sure.
That was the year. That was the year they lost to Incarnate Word at home, wasn't it?
I believe so. I'm
because it was so. Let me go back. So 15. They had the Rhode Island loss early. They were like ranked preseason top 25, right? And
yes, and they lost to Rhode Island coach Dan Hurley.
100%. Yeah, and then they lost to Creighton at home, and that sent everybody like into absolute panic mode. And then they lost to Incarnate Word, and then they had this is a really memorable season. And then they beat Cincinnati in double overtime in a game that totaled 111 points. Double overtime. Yes. And then they went to the Diamond Head Classic where they lost to Hawaii at like midnight.
Yes. There were, quite the cast of characters. Just in those games you mentioned, there are cameos from Dan Hurley and Mick Cronin some 10 years ago.
That's right.
And now, ironically enough, here we are a decade later, and it's another team coming off of an NCAA tournament appearance making a return trip to the Diamond Head Classic. Strange, the passage of time, but history always finds a way to repeat itself.
Hey, speaking of Mick Cronin, he's kind of cooking right now.
Yeah, UCLA, they are doing a little. I mean, I expected them to be good. I didn't expect them to be the clear front runner in all the metrics, in the Big Ten this early on. Big bounce back year from Cronin and then the Bruins so far. I mean, you could make the joke that he's always been a Big Ten coach. This is just his first year of actually being a Big Ten coach, coaching. His teams have always played that grinded out, style of basketball. And I've liked what I've seen from the Bruins. And then, funny enough, they are the first game, the first Big Ten game at the shoot in Lincoln after the New Year on, I believe, the 4th of January. A little Saturday afternoon tilt with the Bruins. But I like what I've seen from UCLA so far.
That'll be a huge game. So Friday was a big night for Nebraska basketball. With coming up, we framed this up last Tuesday, but. Coming off of what happened at Michigan State and just was not a good taste to have in your mouth. We kind of set last Friday up to be a really big one for Nebraska, and they really answered the bell. I mean, I said some stuff about Indiana, and I don't know about them, as a team, really ever over the last couple of years. I don't think they're very good, but Nebraska needed that on Friday night.
Yeah, they definitely did. They answered the bell. They got back up off the mat, and they responded in a big way. And that was the big question. I mean, we talked about it last week too, but that was the big question coming off Michigan State. It was not like the question wasn't about, obviously there were plenty of questions about a 37-point loss, but there was, the question was always going to be about the response, and they bounced back and then some. I mean, they were assertive from the jump, especially Bryce Williams. They took advantage of, some weak spots with Indiana. I mean, the lack of defensive intensity for IU. I mean, this isn't an Indiana show, but there's plenty of questions about that program and everything going on there. But just the lack of energy and intensity on the defensive end was pretty eye-opening from the Hoosiers, and Nebraska took advantage. They were the aggressor, even though they got out-rebounded, and there were some times where it's like, oh, Indiana's just going to try to out-physical them. I mean, I think Nebraska set the rules, and if not for some sloppy turnovers, then that game maybe even bigger of a deficit than the 17-point margin of victory that Nebraska wound up with.
Yeah, and they've generally been pretty careful with the basketball this year. So that was a little bit out of character for them on Friday night with the 14 I think turnovers in the game. So not one to pick at necessarily, not one to be particularly worried about at this point. I was sort of wondering, and they've won games in a variety of different ways at this point, getting big contributions from like a variety of different players. Now they haven't had the consistency of playing like good teams back to back to back to back, and they won't really until after the new year. But as you get the grasp on this team, Jacob, what do you feel like their path to their best path to winning like a basketball game is? And you can sort of adjust that to the Big Ten too. Like generally what you're going to see in the conference, what does Nebraska need to be on a nightly basis in order to come out with a successful result?
I mean, would it be wrong for me to say that Friday night was kind of the perfect, the ideal situation? I'm not saying Bryce Williams is going to get you 30 every night, but I think he needs to be your alpha dog. And I think that was by far his best game as a Husker. Looking at the box score, obviously he has, the 30 points. You get 13 off the bench from Connor Essegian, who has been, up and down. We saw him score as high as 29 points. In one of those bye games a couple weeks back. Juwan Gary just kept doing, Juwan Gary stuff. I know that's as corny as it could possibly sound, but I mean, that dude is still everywhere. He finishes with 14 points, 5 boards, and an assist. I mean, I think looking at that box score, and obviously you'd like to see more out of, Berke only has 5, Worcester only has 4. He's in foul trouble. Mia has 4, but I mean, kind of just the way it looked on Friday night, I think, like to the eye, kind of, was like, this is kind of the perfect storm. You have 4 guys in double figures that night, led by your 2 sixth-year guys in Williams and Gary, and then, just kind of, I think the 13 in that sort of range is, the ideal, number for a season. And I think it's just, once again, all hands on deck. But I mean, it's no coincidence that, I've just filed my, next magazine, column for Huskers Illustrated, and I opened with, this, speaking of corny, was will the real Nebraska basketball please stand up?
Nice.
Because we've seen, so many different, versions of this team to this point. It's tough to see I think we know what we want it to look like, but there's just been so many different variables and ways they've won games.
How do you square up the idea that, I mean, they defensively, as we've talked about their athleticism before, they have a bit of a ceiling to them, and it's going to be, if they do it on defense, it'll be in the same ilk of what they've done over the last couple of years, which is sort of team and pressure and all that stuff. How do you square that idea up with there is a bit of a ceiling on the defensive side of the ball, but they do have to win, it feels like, games on that side where, you, like you just said, you have these nights where it's Bryce or it's Essegian or it's Gary sort of leading you on offense. You have confidence that one guy will be there and pour in enough for you to get there on offense. But defensively, I'm just curious as to what you think they can be and then what they need to be sort of on a nightly basis in order to get there.
I mean, I think they have to have that defensive intensity Fred Hoiberg's called it a defensive edge. I mean, that's got to be the most consistent thing for this team. It's got to travel with them. I mean, it's got to be, I think that's where their identity starts, really and truly. And if you look at their analytics, I mean, that's their highest. They're the 34th rated defensive efficiency team on KenPom right now. I think that's where it's got to start for them. And you're going to get into some games in the Big Ten where, I mean, if you're and we were just talking about them, like UCLA comes to town. I mean, you're going to have some defensive intensity from the jump against those guys. The game after that, you're going on the road to Iowa. You're going a team that can put up points in a hurry in a place that's been a house of horrors for, Nebraska basketball since Fred Hoiberg's been the coach. There's been some ugly results there. You're going to have to, come to play on defense. I mean, we've seen what it looks like when the defensive edge is not there. We saw it in East Lansing, 10 days ago, and it can, escalate quickly. I mean, that's going to have to be their constant throughout the season, and it's going to be, I think that's point one. When you're looking at the path to success for Nebraska is the effort, the edge, the intensity on defense.
This is sort of anecdotally, but I mean, you watch them every game. How do you feel like opponents? People like to talk about shot quality in basketball, like shot quality winners and losers and stuff like that. How do you feel like the quality of shots has been against Nebraska? Because oftentimes I feel like I'm watching them and I'm like, man, those are sort of makeable shots and they're not going in. And then they go through, spurts where they're really suffocating as well. Like, how do you feel like they've been on the defensive side on the 3-point line outside of the ball actually going into the basket, minus the result?
I mean, I think there have been times where their closeouts have been really good. They're, either running guys off or, they're closing out hard. And, that's something that we've heard Fred Hoiberg talk about. He's like, I can tell, how our defensive effort's going to be based on closeouts. And I think there have been games where they've been really good. But, there's, the two most, the biggest results so far, obviously, were Friday night against Indiana, where, a team with 3 6'9" guys who can't shoot somehow ends up taking 35 3-pointers. They make 8, which still matches their season high of makes in a game. That tells you all you need to know about this season for IU. And then the Creighton game, last month, where I forget, they for the third year in a row, Creighton
12 of 42.
Yeah, 12 of 42, and for the third year in a row, Creighton took more than 43s against Nebraska. And it just, becomes it definitely becomes a gamble, becomes a numbers game. And, you definitely like your chances in the numbers game against IU compared to some other teams on the schedule since, how much 3-point shooting has ailed them. But I think, there are teams getting quality shots that just aren't going in. And, as cliche as it is, you got to make shots to win games.
Yeah.
And, so far in the two most notable, results of the year for Nebraska, the opposing team has not made shots from beyond the arc.
Indiana, it's a gamble worth taking, right? like you said, they lack.
Absolutely.
Creighton, maybe not so, but at the same time, like, you're trying to shut down Kalkbrenner, so that's and it worked, right? Like, how can you fault it? The game plan worked to perfection, and that was.
Yeah.
So it's situational.
And then, in a couple weeks against Iowa, I mean, that's a team where you look at that defensive game plan, you're like, are you sure? Like, you look at, the Stanford brothers and, Brock Harding and, the guys in Iowa City that are just, that can be assassins from 3. Josh Dix, they got guys up and down the roster who can make 3s. You look at the defensive game plan of that matchup, you're like, I don't know. That could, we've seen games there escalate, in years past.
That's one to watch. So I'm looking at it from last year. They ended up top 100 in the country in 3-point defense last year, which is, once again, kind of surprising anecdotally, just thinking about last year. And then they're 129 right now. Teams are shooting 32% on them from 3. Like, that's also that's actually really good. Trying, knowing what they want to do on a night-to-night basis. It's worked out really, really well for them, and now there's some sample size behind it.
Yeah, and Fred Hoiberg has said, we either got to shut the paint off or shut it off from 3. You can't let teams have both. Those were the instances on Friday where it looked like Indiana had a chance, where they had guys making 3s, and then they were also going inside. And you gotta, you can't give up both. It's got to be one or the other.
Yep. All right, Jacob. Well, great stuff. Enjoy those Do we have tip times for the Diamond Head Classic? What is the tip time for Sunday?
Sunday night at 8, I believe.
Okay, that's not bad.
Tip for Nebraska and Murray State, and then it'll be result dependent from there on out. I'm currently going down the rabbit hole of the 14-15 Nebraska basketball season, remembering things from from what was a weirdo year 10 years ago. Yeah, you were right about Incarnate Word. They went to Florida State and won. Weird, but I'm currently going down that rabbit hole, so that's how my day's going.
Was that the year? Did somebody get hurt and then they just slid off at the end of the year, or am I thinking of the Copeland? That was Copeland.
That was Copeland in the ACL. Looking at these results, I think the most notable was after they lost to Iowa 74-46, and if I remember correctly, Tim Miles was wearing an Argyle sweater that day instead of a suit, and then he did the whole "I'm locking my guys out of the locker room."
Oh yeah,
thing.
classic Miles.
If I remember, like the whole we have these facilities, these guys, can't, don't deserve them or whatever. I'm locking them out of the locker room after they lost by 29 points at home to Iowa in February of 2015.
Was that the year where him and Crean were yelling at each other? It was like New Year's Eve. And
I think that was the year before. I think that was no. That was that year. Yeah. December 31st, 4:30 tip against Indiana, a game they lost by 5.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I was at that game in the student section. And everybody was just giving it to Crean. Man, I bet Indiana fans would be like, bring Tom Crean back at this point.
I don't quite know about that. I don't know if anyone's really itching for
Probably
Tom Crean. I did get the full story of that shouting match from Coach Miles. A few years later. It's not radio appropriate, but it's quite the funny backstory. But yeah, I don't know. Indiana basketball is in a weird state. Is Tom Crean the Bo Pelini of Indiana basketball?
Yeah.
Would people really be itching for Tom Crean, given how the past few years have gone?
They have a segment of their fan base. They're called the Crean Leavers or the Crean Believers. And they're rabid right now. They're feeling it.
Yeah, they're out there. They're out there somewhere for sure.
See you, Jacob. Thanks.
Yep, see you, Hap.
Jacob Bigelow, Huskers Illustrated in the Stretch Big podcast. Remembering things from the mid to from that decade, from the Tim Miles era. Travis says, God, I cannot stand Crean. I've seen Indiana fans on Twitter saying they should bring him back. Look, they had some level of NCAA tournament success. Like, that's what it's all about. You're that type of program. You have to get to the NCAA tournament. That should be a given. And then you got to win games in the NCAA tournament. And they did. Like, they were in Sweet 16s and Elite 8s. So yeah, people miss it. Thought they had it with Archie. I don't know that everybody was super excited about Mike Woodson. But it just seems to be a little bit floundering right now. All right, we'll be right back. Still a couple things left to cover before we get out of here on a Tuesday. Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone. right, a couple more minutes here on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. Don't forget, we have Creighton women's basketball coming up tonight on 1180 The Zone. Josh Peterson, the radio host, will be on the call. I can't remember with who, but somebody. It's in an email somewhere. It will be it'll be Josh and John Schreiner.
Oh, Schreiner.
Do you see Schreiner can bench like 300 pounds?
Yeah, he said
Schreiner's jacked, baby.
He posted an update. He was restarted lifting in August, and he's already
Schreiner's juicing.
Pumping 280.
He's not juicing. He does it all natural. Don't worry.
I'll be at the man in the chair tonight. Tune in for that game.
Okay, nice. He'll be on the buttons. Good. All right. So speaking of college basketball, this is a guy who here's a guy. I have, like, a lot of people around here have some disdain for Dan Hurley. I think that he is definitely good for the sport, and you're about to hear that from his mouth. But also, like, I appreciate what he's doing. I think the whole thing is a bit. And so, like, he knows that people react to him in a certain way when he goes to certain locations across the country and they yell obscenities at him and stuff like that. And then he can go in afterwards and say, well, it was disgraceful, it was despicable, and all that stuff. But here's two of my favorite people in the same interview. This is our dear friend John Fanta. I have no idea the context here, but I saw this last night and I was laughing the entire time. John Fanta, Dan Hurley get together after a UConn win. Here it is.
Here's my last thing to you. I've only coached one season, and it was 7th grade CYO ball. We did not qualify for the playoffs, and I got thrown out of a couple of games. So my last thing to you is this. I don't envy your job at all. I envy winning national championships. There's no shot in hell I could do it. I think just my take that I've given before, when you've won back-to-back national championships, you kind of earn the right to figure things out through the last 2 weeks like you have.
Yeah, I think, again, I didn't hear all the takes, but you could hear the external noise. And, some of the ones I heard were, I thought were overreactions or, what they call that, engagement farming or whatever it is. I think people like me are really good for sports. I don't think, I wasn't embarrassed by it. I was frustrated by it. I was disappointed in myself. I don't think you want people that approach, winning and losing, players and coaches like me that fight their ass off to win games. I think that's what makes sports great. And I don't think we want to dial down the intensity in sports, because I think that in some sports we're not getting enough of it.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
I love those guys. MJ writes in, you think being a psycho is a bit. In this case, like, I think he dials it up. What in the specifically the in the game stuff, because you could see him, like, every time I see him in an interview, or I see him, like, you don't get much of this, but, like, you kind of see him in his own element, right? He's operating practice and stuff like that, and maybe it's just like a downtime of practice. Like, he's a relatively mild-mannered guy. But when you get him on the basketball court, he goes into absolute freak town.
That specific interview, he sounded like he just finished like a 1-hour yoga session, like total. Yeah. And it's a lot of external noise. Some are calling it.
He's an insane person on the sideline for basketball games. And I love that he just said, I'm good for the sport. I think that's hilarious. And I love that John Fanta said that he coached CYO ball for a little while and got thrown out of a couple games. They got thrown out of a couple games. And then Hurley dropped in the engagement farming, which totally did not apply.
So we're calling it engagement farming.
He goes engagement farming, and you could hear Fanta in the background say, good term. Good. I love the Big East Conference so much. And it's given us these sweet, sweet people. We're going to have Fanta on at some point before. I mean, maybe I don't know. Maybe we'll do it this week. Maybe we'll text Fanta this week. We'll say, please come talk basketball or Browns with us. UConn, by the way, has righted this ship after the atrocities that occurred in Maui, which would be losing to Memphis, Colorado, and Dayton in 3 consecutive games, and then Dan Hurley swearing off multi-team tournaments in general.
I'm never doing it again.
Then they came back home, bludgeoned one of the worst teams in the country, and now have ripped off 3 straight against Baylor, Texas, and Gonzaga. So I think everything is not everything, but it seems calculated at times, right? I'm trying to push in this direction, and I'm trying to get my team to respond. Hurley is he's a treasure.
The trip to Hawaii. Oh no, disaster.
Oh no. Oh, what's that, Peter? We should hit that.
Oh no! Disaster!
Yeah, was not good. Jeff says he dials it up for sure, but most coaches do. Your J coach is pretty animated on the sideline, but he sounds calm in interviews. Yeah, well, that's who he is. He's pretty animated on the sideline, but not nearly in the same ballpark as Mr. Hurley. No, nobody would say that. Your J coach.
That might be the first time I've heard him refer to that way.
Your J coach. Star Wars Fiend writes in, John Bishop is listening right now. Like, that's my coach. Go Huskies. Welcome to the Big East. Welcome to the Big East. So that's a good check-in with the Big East Conference as conference play will get underway here this weekend. Creighton will host Villanova.
Yeah, we're almost through the non-con.
It's about to be that time. Wanted to read you just one anecdote, and I saw this story this morning from Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports about what the college football just had some sort of a big like summit meeting, and a bunch of people came together and expressed some concerns about where things are headed, and nobody knows what to do, and it's chaos and it's confusion. And he really painted the picture pretty well. I haven't poured through the entire story yet, the details of it. Probably do a little bit of that tomorrow. But what I did get through was the lead, which is amazing. Here's from Ross Dellinger, live from Las Vegas. As Charlie Baker, NCAA President Charlie Baker, moved through the Bellagio Casino last Tuesday evening, a man approached him with a complaint. "What you guys did was wrong," the man said. "What did I do?" a perplexed Baker asked. Now, what do you think the response to that question is, Peter? What do you think this man at the Bellagio was mad at the NCAA president for? Could be any litany of things. It could be so many things.
The list is vast.
Look at what has become of our sport. Look at what has become of college athletics as a whole. You're sellouts for the money and the TV, and you have no control over anything.
It's a mess.
All of that. All of possible options to complain. You have the NCAA president right there in your face, and you want to say something to him. Here's what this man chose to do. Quote, "You left Alabama out of the playoff." End quote. Can't you just see that interaction? Guy in an Alabama shirt, he's ripping cigarettes at the slot machine, and he's like, is that the NCAA president? I'd like to have a word with him. And the word is, I couldn't believe you left Alabama out of the playoff. A thing that Charlie Baker literally has no control over because the NCAA doesn't run the college football playoff. He's literally separate from the entire thing.
I also had this thought when seeing people's reactions to the Heisman results.
Charlie
do you realize
Baker, how
the
dare you?
NCAA does not determine the winner of the Heisman Trophy.
It's voted on, and it has no bearing on the NCAA at all. So the rest of the lead is, as NCAA president, Baker holds authority over many aspects of college sports. The college football playoff is not one of them. But the exchange in a bustling, smoke-filled casino on the Vegas Strip is a reminder of the power of college football, the misunderstanding of its place within NCAA structure, and the off-the-field disarray gripping the sport. With the college football playoff selection process being perhaps the least of the issues. Messy, madness, chaos, confusion. And then the story goes on. Like I said, some of which we're going to dive into tomorrow, but thought that was a fantastic lead. Guy comes up to Charlie Baker at the Bellagio and says, "Look what you did. Look what you did. You left Alabama out of the playoff.
Look what you did."
Everybody universally outside of Alabama fans would be like, "Hell yeah, thank you, Charlie Baker." If Charlie Baker actually did that, but he did not do that. All right, we'll take a break. We'll be back on the other side. We have the poll questions. We will tell you what to watch before we send you into the crossover. Coming up on 1620 The Zone. speaking of Charlie Baker, the president of the NCAA, he today testified before the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee calling for federal action to protect student athletes and competition integrity from the risks of sports betting. He recommended that college player prop bets should be banned, that they should exclude bettors who harass athletes. That definitely seems easy to track. And enhance data sharing for integrity investigations. Once again, the sport, like, there's so many things with the sport right now, with college football, with college athletics, right? There's so many different things going on. Charlie Baker's like, yeah, but gambling. And no doubt about it. There needs to be probably better education. And I also think you probably need to just go through a couple cycles of this and sort of like have players. There's going to be some players, and there have been some players already, college athletes, who have learned lessons the hard way. And sometimes you have to just see that in order for there to be some correction on the backside of it. But once again, wouldn't put this at the top of the list for the NCAA right now. But one problem at a time, I suppose. To the polls at Happer Show on the J-Tech Construction Zone Twitter feed.
Yeah, I kind of slacked on those days.
That's okay.
Got a couple.
I usually got to, like, I got to say poll question. And then it becomes a poll question. I didn't really do that today, except for one. I did do it here. Does every friend group need a guy who ends the night with a fully unbuttoned shirt? Need is a strong word, but I feel like everyone has one. I'll say yes. Under the spirit of this question, 65% say yes.
All right,
that's good.
A Vinny.
Yeah, everybody needs a Vinny. And nice. I didn't even see this one. Do you just need to put the mayo back in the toothpaste tube sometimes? A question that makes no sense in context. Yes, you do. Please understand. 56% say no, and they're probably very confused. Most people just decided ultimately to not vote altogether, which is understandable. All right, Peter, man, I know we got a bowl game tonight.
Yep, that is the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl.
Hell yeah.
At 8 p.m. on ESPN.
You like Memphis. You already proclaimed that you like Memphis.
I think I'm going to go Tigers. Go Tigers. And then college basketball, some top 25 teams in action. No ranked matchups. I did see South Carolina Clemson on the ACC network.
Let's see what my little Kempom says for the games to watch tonight. My little Kempom says Florida and North Carolina is the game of the night in college basketball.
That's I think that might be the lead in to the bowl game.
Wow, really?
Potentially.
Well, the Florida North Carolina is at 6. So is the bowl game at 8?
Yeah, the bowl game is at 8 o'clock.
Oh,
let me double check on this here.
Oh dear.
Yeah, that's going to be a slightly late kick.
Probably won't watch. Maybe I'll watch something else. I don't know. Clemson in South Carolina is a game tonight. Drake and K-State is a game tonight. If you got your ESPN Plus, that game is at the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. Get familiar with Kansas City. And a Big East game tonight. A couple Big East games tonight, actually. DePaul. Resurgent DePaul.
The Demons.
And St. John's, and then Seton Hall and Villanova will play tonight. Of course, Georgetown and Creighton tomorrow, but that'll be tomorrow.
So, yeah, North Carolina and Florida does lead into the bowl game tonight. So
excellent.
And I'm just putting it out there. NBA Cup Final, 7:30 on ABC.
Who's in that? Peter?
The Thunder.
The Thunder?
The Thunder.
Are they going to be the first team ever to win the NBA Cup and the real Cup?
I would love that. I would love nothing more. That would be awesome. Well, I guess the Lakers technically are, but they didn't win the finals last year.
No.
They didn't do a proper double. And I'm just going to get on like a 30-second soapbox.
Go for it,
I have
Peter.
seen so much complaining, and I get it. I knew that when they made this tournament official, it was not going to be met with everyone open arms. But I mean, for the love
you're
of
standing up for the cup?
I am standing up for the cup. Like, God forbid leagues try something new that doesn't alter the schedule. The games mostly all count towards your regular season standings. You're not really doing any extra work unless you make the championship.
No.
That's the only scenario where you're playing an additional game.
I don't think you have to. I don't think you have to I don't have to think you have to do away with it. But don't expect me to care any more than any regular season game.
And
I'm not
fine.
going to. Just because you're making the courts brown or whatever colors you're making the courts, don't expect me to care.
And
it's
that
for
is
the players, right? It's the players' incentive to make $1 million.
And that's
whatever it is.
And that would be my one complaint, is that they've gone all in on the courts and the marketing, but they have completely taken a back seat to the finals. Has taken a back seat. They don't do any sort of that same stuff for the finals, which is bizarre, but whatever.
All right, Prater Man, thank you.
So,
we'll do it again tomorrow.
Go Thunder.
Go,
Let's do it.
Go Thunder.
Win the cup.
Thunder up, everybody. Do it for the cup. That is it for us today. If you missed anything, you can find it all on our website, 1620thezone.com. The crossover is next.